Chapter 351. Jiahua didn't fight back. His arm was basically broken, and he couldn't muster up any strength. Thus, when Chu Yifeng's palm came crashing down, he simply closed his eyes and waited for death. However, Holy Tiger Sun Palm didn't hit his head because Chu Yifeng's body suddenly stiffened and the red light in his hand disappeared. Chu Yifeng turned around with difficulty, and his eyes were filled with unconcealable shock. He spoke with great difficulty because a blue icicle the size of a bowl had emerged from his throat. Under the light, the icicle was sharp and blood was dripping from it. On the other side of the icicle was Lan Bing's palm. She had used her origin energy to use Dark Ice Force to pierce through Chu Yifeng's neck. This was the best opportunity, and it was an opportunity that would never appear a second time. Not only did Lan Bing seize the opportunity, but she had also executed a perfect one-hit kill, hitting a vital point. She had given herself to Chu Yifeng's side and served him for many years. Her goal was to eliminate Chu Yifeng's wariness and gain his trust. Then, she would use her outstanding talents to enter the eyes of the higher-ups of Haitian Group and win their trust. As long as she gained the trust of the higher-ups, she would have a way to use her abilities and beauty to win Chu Mingliang's appreciation. Although she had never experienced a man before, she undoubtedly understood the psychology of men very well. Once Chu Mingliang decided to accept Lan Bing, Chu Yifeng would definitely be thrown into disarray. He would have to take her first step. This was the most important point. However, before that, there was an even more important thing to do, and that was to capture Ding Ming alive. If Ding Ming wasn't captured, Chu Mingliang wouldn't be alarmed, and Chu Mingliang wouldn't meet up with Lan Bing for the time being. However, once Ding Ming was captured, Chu Mingliang would definitely rush here. Then, Chu Yifeng would have no chance of getting Lan Bing. This was why Lan Bing had said, "Because I only have hope if you're alive." Therefore, once Ding Ming was captured, the countdown for revenge would truly begin. Ding Ming suddenly realized many things. For example, during the Meteor City incident, Lan Bing had sent Jia Mao, not Gu Ping. If it had been Gu Ping, Ding Ming would have been finished long ago. To put it bluntly, Lan Bing had calculated that Jia Mao wouldn't be a match for Ding Ming. She had purposely let Ding Ming live so that the higher-ups of Haitian Group would have the misconception that this Ding Ming was very strong, and they had to pay attention to Ding Ming. Once Ding Ming was taken seriously, he would be targeted by Chu Mingliang. Sooner or later, he would be captured. Then, things would become like this sooner or later. To assassinate a war master like Chu Yifeng, she could only do it when he was least prepared. When a man was least prepared, there were usually several situations. First, he would take off his equipment in front of the woman he loved the most. Second, he would be naked with his back facing his most trusted friend. Third, he would be in a semi-conscious state after drinking too much. It would be difficult for him to pay attention to other things when his emotions were in a mess. These three conditions were all calculated by Lan Bing. Therefore, she had easily pierced Chu Yifeng's throat. Chu Yifeng couldn't believe it. It wasn't that he didn't believe that Lan Bing wanted to kill him, but he didn't believe that Lan Bing would take his life right away. Lan Bing laughed coldly. "I have to thank Chu Mingliang for taking care of me during this period of time. It allowed me to become stronger by leaps and bounds. If you want to blame someone, blame him. Who asked him to be as blind as you to fall for me? Do you really think you can have me?" Hearing this, Chu Yifeng lowered his head to look at Ding Ming's brittle arm. He seemed to have discovered something and thought of something. Then, he turned his head to look at Ding Ming, who was lying on the ground. At this moment, his expression suddenly changed. It was filled with indescribable anger, bewilderment, confusion, and fear. Lan Bing finally laughed out loud. "Ha ha ha, that's right. What do you think I'm doing in the operating room? Even if I let a laborer enjoy me, I won't let an animal like you have the right to take me." The fact that she was hiding her strength was secondary. This was what Chu Yifeng couldn't stand. He roared and slapped her like a dying beast. Pooh! The slap fell halfway. Lan Bing's left hand shot out an ice spike that was exactly the same as Chu Yifeng's. It instantly pierced Chu Yifeng's heart. Lan Bing laughed even more happily. You won't be able to die peacefully. Think of me when you're in hell." Then, she shook her wrist, and the two ice spikes retracted into her palm. Two huge bloody holes appeared in Chu Yifeng's neck and heart. Blood spurted out like arrows and even sprayed on Lan Bing's face. However, she didn't look like an ice beauty anymore. Her hair was disheveled, and she looked like a female ghost. A female ghost who killed without blinking. Plop! The corpse fell heavily to the ground. However, the corpse's eyes were still wide open. The expression on his face was very complicated. It was obvious that Chu Yifeng died with his eyes wide open. Ah ha ha ha! Lan Bing raised her head and laughed. This laughter sounded very strange in the operating room. However, when she lowered her head, 2 lines of tears flowed down her face. She must be crying tears of joy after getting her revenge. Seeing her laughing and crying crazily at the same time, Ding Ming felt his whole body tremble. He was rarely afraid. Even when facing a strong enemy, he always tried his best to survive. However, he now had a deep fear of Lan Bing. He thought that after escaping from Black Gold Base, he had escaped from Haitian group's control. He didn't know that in the end, he still couldn't escape Lan Bing's scheme. This time, he still became a very important chess piece in Lan Bing's hands. This time, even Little Rascal was alarmed. Little Rascal seemed to be sighing. "I thought that, Ding Ming. You were blessed with good fortune for no reason. Turns out it was all a conspiracy. This woman is so shrewd. She's really a ruthless character." Ding Ming nodded. "This is the first time I've felt this way. Don't make an enemy out of this person." Cough, cough, cough. Someone in the corner coughed violently. Jiahua, who had yet to recover from the shock, stood up shakily. Looking at the tragic corpse on the ground, even he couldn't believe that such a powerful person like Chu Yifeng had died like this. He seemed to have thought of something. He took the initiative to walk in front of Lan Bing and said seriously, "I did everything you asked me to do." Lan Bing immediately regained her composure. "You did very well." Jiahua's expression became sincere. "I swore that I would do anything for you." Lan Bing nodded. "I believe you." Little Rascal suddenly realized. So she's already hooked up with this Jiahua. Ding Ming sighed. "I'm afraid that's not the case." As expected, Jiahua's gaze towards Lan Bing became gentle. "Let's go." "Go." Lan Bing had a strange expression. "Go where?" "Let's leave this place and go to outer space. We'll go far away and never return to the Federation. We'll go to a planet where no one can find us. I'm willing to be with you forever." Jiahua's expression was as serious as a child's. Lan Bing laughed again. This time she laughed crazily. She laughed so hard that she bent over. It was like she had heard the funniest joke in the world. She laughed so hard that tears almost came out. Seeing her like this, Ding Ming sighed inwardly. He suddenly felt that sometimes laughing was more painful than crying. Sometimes laughing was more hurtful than the sharpest weapon. Jiahua's face was filled with anticipation, but at this moment, all the blood drained from his face. However, he clearly didn't want to believe it. He looked at Lan Bing like a child and muttered, "You promised me that after this, you would go anywhere with me." Lan Bing suddenly stopped laughing. She looked at him coldly, as if she was looking at a pile of shit. Then she gathered her strength and shouted, "Scram!" Jiahua's expression became unspeakably fearful. Lan Bing pointed at the body on the ground and hissed, "You disgust me more than he does. At least he has some bottom line. You're worse than an animal. You think I'll be happy just because you killed tens of thousands of refugees from planet KV-303? Will I be satisfied? Let me tell you, after the tragedy happened, every time I saw you, I wanted to vomit. I couldn't eat for weeks." Jiahua's face was pale. He didn't give up. "Don't you hate Ding Ming so much?" Lan Bing said fiercely. "Yes, I hate him even more now. Do you know why?" Jiahua was confused. "Why?" Lan Bing smiled darkly. She pointed at Ding Ming and said, "He took my virginity, right here just now." These words were like thunder. Jiahua's head was buzzing. He was shocked. Impossible. This is impossible. He was just like Chu Yifeng. He was too infatuated with this woman and fell too deeply in love with her. In their hearts, Lan Bing was an aloof, holy, and flawless goddess. How could she give herself to a lowly laborer like Ding Ming? Ding Ming suddenly realized how ruthless Lan Bing was. She knew that killing Chu Yifeng was just a momentary pleasure. She wanted to destroy what Chu Yifeng and Jiahua valued the most. She wanted them to regret it for the rest of their lives. She wanted them to feel pain for the rest of their lives. Even if they went to hell, they would hate her. This was true revenge. Impossible, impossible, Jiahua suddenly shouted. I don't believe it. You don't believe it? I have ways to make you believe it. Lan Bing smiled cruelly. She pointed at her legs and said, Come, take off my clothes. Open your eyes and see if there's blood on them. That's my blood. This time, not only was Jiahua shocked, but even Ding Ming felt that this woman was really strong. However, Jiahua wouldn't dare to do this kind of thing. Lan Bing smiled disdainfully. If you don't dare, I'll take it off myself. She looked like she was really going to take it off. Jiahua was shocked. He immediately waved his hand and said, Please don't. I believe you. I definitely believe you. I will always believe you. Lan Bing stopped smiling and said seriously, Good. Kill Ding Ming for me now. That's the same as proving my innocence. After this, I will immediately leave with you. We will never be separated again. I won't go back on my words this time. This is the last thing I want you to do for me. Jiahua heard this and turned around. The expression on his face showed that he was unconditionally loyal to Lan Bing. The killing intent on his body made Ding Ming's pores contract. Little Rascal also became nervous. Ding Ming, be careful. Chapter 352. Facing Jiahua's approach, Ding Ming suddenly laughed. Jiahua frowned. He really did not understand. This person was about to be killed by his palm. How could he laugh at such a time? Ding Ming laughed. Who do you think you are? She just thinks you're a joke. Jiahua had a deep impression of these words. When Ding Ming used Chu Ying to send him to the Falcon flying ship to smash and kill, the first thing he said when he saw Jiahua was this. He said it now not to provoke Jiahua, but in hopes that Jiahua would wake up. You're already possessed. It's not too late to turn back. Jiahua looked coldly at Ding Ming. Yes, I'm possessed, but I'm willing to be possessed by her. Ding Ming sighed. Forget it. Do it. It's better for me to die in your hands than to die in a woman's hands. Jiahua did not hesitate to slap down with his palm, and then he saw a dark golden blade light. The blade light was not fast, but the timing and position were very clever. This palm was like Jiahua himself sending his palm to the blade. A piercing pain immediately spread from his palm to his arm. Ding Ming, who was originally lying on the ground on the verge of death, suddenly jumped up. With a backhand hook, the T-shaped claw blade hit Jiahua's palm. What followed was Ding Ming's most skillful technique. With a crisp sound, Jiahua's arm was torn apart like a cloth curtain. The claw knife cut through the tendons of his forearm, the tendons of his elbow, the biceps, the scapula. The claw knife completely cut open his arm and finally inserted into his neck. This process didn't even take a second. Ding Ming pulled again, and Jiahua didn't even feel any pain. His neck was completely cut open, and his corpse fell to the ground with a spray of blood. Even when he was lying on the ground, his body was still twitching violently. His eyes were also not closed. They were filled with shock and fear. He did not understand how Ding Ming could still explode with such power. Why was the golden knife still with Ding Ming? He knew about this saber. Almost everyone from the Haitian group and the surprise assault corps who went against Ding Ming had died under this saber. Even he was no exception. He never thought that he would one day become a ghost under this saber. He had too many questions that he couldn't figure out, so he died with his eyes wide open. Actually, only Ding Ming knew about this. Even Little Rascal was unaware of this. When Lan Bing removed the energy hoop and retrieved half of her origin core, she had secretly stuck the knife under Ding Ming's butt. How could Ding Ming not notice it? She had planned all of this a long time ago. This knife couldn't deal with her, but it was more than enough to deal with Jiahua. What a joke. No matter how weak a combat master was, killing a warrior was as easy as stretching out a hand. When Ding Ming slit Jiahua's throat, the last bit of origin energy in his body was almost completely depleted. Ding Ming immediately let go and sat back down on the ground, panting heavily. The T-shaped claw blade fell to the side. Lan Bing stared at Jia Hua's corpse and said coldly, I really want to go far away with you. I'm a woman of my word. Unfortunately, you don't have the ability to do so. As she spoke, she walked forward and bent down to pick up the knife. She held the blade in her hand and examined it repeatedly. She softly murmured, What fortune is there in gathering? What sorrow is there in parting? What joy is there in life? What bitterness is there in death? Ding, did you carve this? Ding Meng panted and said, The result is the same regardless. Lan Bing sighed in praise. This is a good knife. Ding Meng said, It is indeed a good knife. Lan Bing thought for a moment. Julie, Machine Gun, Sadler, Salazar, Jiahua, they all seem to have died under this knife. Even I've been injured by this knife before. Ding Meng sighed. If I can die under this knife, I will have no regrets. Lan Bing sneered. If you think I'm going to kill you, you're wrong. You're the first man in my life. I'll leave you a way out. Whether you live or not, it'll depend on your luck. Ding Meng was expressionless. I'm afraid you don't even believe what you are saying right now, do you? Lan Bing's expression became disdainful again. She said arrogantly, You will never be able to guess what I am thinking. As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly turned her hand and slashed her shoulder. Her clothes were still open, so with a chi sound, a bloody wound appeared on her snow-white shoulder. The wound was so deep that the bone could be seen. You! Ding Meng was shocked. This woman's level of terror had once again exceeded his understanding. Lan Bing did not even blink. She threw the knife back to Ding Meng. It is indeed a good knife. I will now return it to its rightful owner. Ding Meng was really confused this time. He really could not figure out Lan Bing's intentions. Lan Bing looked at the two corpses on the ground. I have my revenge. The culprit and his accomplices have been killed. Your life and death have nothing to do with me. She did not seem to be playing tricks. Ding Meng probed. You don't want the K-virus anymore? Lan Bing said, What about you? If you could do it all over again, would you be willing to fuse with the K-virus? This. Ding Meng hesitated. To be honest, the K-virus was indeed very powerful. No one could answer the question of whether the K-virus was a blessing or a disaster. Lan Bing laughed. You see, even the owner of the K-virus can't answer the question. Why would an outsider like me want it? A man's wealth is his own ruin. Don't you understand this principle? Ding Meng was speechless. Lan Bing suddenly pointed at a cabinet next to the door and said, Your equipment is all in there. Ding Meng became alert again. What do you mean? Lan Bing said, You can leave now. Ding Meng sneered. You dare let me go? Lan Bing looked straight at him. If I have the guts to let you go, then I have the confidence that you can't do anything to me, and you have to stay far away from me. Ding Meng was surprised. Oh, Lan Bing said expressionlessly. You killed one of the heirs of Haitian group, Chu Yifeng. You also took care of Jiahua. In the end, you injured me and took advantage of the chaos to escape. Ding Meng's heart sank. It turned out that Lan Bing's final move was waiting for her. She didn't kill her, not because she really didn't want to kill her, but because she wanted to keep her as a scapegoat. Once the news of Chu Yifeng's death spread, the entire Haitian group would do everything in their power to deal with her, especially Chu Ming Liang, who might even come after her personally. Gu Ping was just a follower of Chu Ming Liang, and if Gu Ping was so terrifying, then Ding Meng didn't know how terrifying Chu Ming Liang's strength was. Ding Meng didn't think that he had the confidence to challenge Chu Ming Liang. Little rascal couldn't help but say, This woman is really ruthless. She's really calculated everything. Don't be angry. We're even now. Lan Bing said coldly. Ding Meng looked down at the knife in his hand. But I don't think so. Lan Bing seemed to know what he was thinking. She explained, The real culprit of planet KV-303 was killed by your own hands just now. Ding Meng said, Unfortunately, that's not a reason for me to take the blame for you. Lan Bing stared at him as if she wanted to see through his heart. Is that unforgettable? If you're a man, then be more generous and honest. Don't make me think that you're a hypocrite. Answer me, yes or no. Ding Meng refused to answer. This question was really too sharp. However, no matter how unwilling he was to answer, He had to admit that everything that had happened in the darkness was probably something that he wouldn't be able to forget for a very long time. Lan Bing smiled cruelly. Look, your expression betrayed your heart. You didn't lose out. You're my first man, and I think you'll be the only one. That's why I said we're even. Ding Ming said coldly. You're also my first woman. Oh, Lan Bing was a little surprised. She hadn't expected this either. After thinking for a long time, she said very good. It looks like we're not even. Ding Ming frowned. What do you mean? You owe me this time. Lan Bing replied proudly. I'm only letting you go because I'm in a good mood right now. Ding Ming sighed. I've suffered so much, and you're still saying that I owe you? Lan Bing laughed coldly. Of course you can't feel it, but I'm a woman. Of course I can feel it. Ding Ming couldn't help but ask, what do you feel? A cruel smile appeared on Lan Bing's face again. Let me tell you something. You have a large amount of origin energy stored in my body, and I don't plan on forcing it out. Perhaps in the future, I'll have a child of my own. I'll definitely raise him well and not follow my old path. That bitch. Little rascal was enraged. How shameless. She's taken every little detail into account. Ding Ming was speechless. Only now did he truly understand Lan Bing's power. Did you really think that you had the upper hand? In reality, you've fallen into her elaborate trap. Lan Bing raised her wrist. You still have 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, the alarm will automatically go off. By the time Gu Ping gets here, not even the gods will be able to save you. Ding Ming got to his feet with great difficulty and slowly made his way toward the door. No matter what, the most important thing right now was to survive. If he stayed here, he would definitely die. Only by escaping would he have a chance at survival. Stop right there. Lan Bing called out decisively. Ding Ming had no choice but to stop. What else do you want to say? Lan Bing gritted her teeth and said, You better forget everything that happened between you and me. If a third person finds out, it's either you or I who will die. Moreover, the person who finds out will die with me. I promise. In terms of strength, Lan Bing was not as good as Ding Ming, but it was not to the extent that the difference between them was like heaven and earth. However, in terms of scheming, Ding Ming was not on the same level as her. Thus, Lan Bing's words were not a joke. Ding Ming sucked in a deep breath. I'll remember that. Lan Bing waved her hand and said, Go. Don't ever let me see you again. He dragged his backpack out of the cabinet, and the alloy door opened on its own. Surprisingly, a Lan Bing, with the exact same figure and appearance, was standing at the door. Ding Ming was stunned. Sister Yin? Meng Yin said anxiously, Mr. Ting, let me help you out. The alarm is about to go off. At this moment, no matter how many questions Ding Ming had, he knew that it was not the time to talk about this. He noticed that there was an alloy corridor outside. Is this a spaceship? Meng Yin supported him as they walked slowly. Yes, this is the most advanced probe ship of the Haitian group. Ding Ming sighed. Sister Yin, do you know Lan Bing? Meng Yin quickly lowered her head. I'm sorry, Mr. Ting. I didn't mean to hide anything from you. I knew her when we were on Planet V4. Many times, she was the one who secretly sold supplies to us to alleviate the various difficulties on Planet V4. Without her help, most of the people on Planet V4 would not have survived until you arrived. Please believe me, Mr. Ting. She is not the kind of person you think she is. She and I will never harm you. Ding Ming sighed. I understand. She has her own position, and you have your own difficulties. However, I believe that you are not the one who revealed the whereabouts of my operation this time. As for whether she will harm me or not, it is still too early to say. Meng Yin held him tightly. Mr. Ting, your breathing is very weak right now. We should leave this place first. Chapter 353. After going around 7 or 8 long passages, the sign of the connecting cabin finally appeared in his line of sight. At this time, the entire ship flashed red and the alarm went off. The system sounded, all crew members, all crew members, all crew members, a dangerous person has been discovered escaping from the ship. Passage 21, coordinates 88C, 450, 12D. Requesting military assistance. At this time, The cabin door opened, and Ding Meng walked down. This was indeed the underground world. It was the same square hall as before, and most of the Haitian group's exploration ships were embedded inside the walls. Judging from its appearance, this ship should belong to the loose support category. It was probably drilled into the ground, and only a small part of it was exposed outside. Meng Yin stood at the cabin door and reached out to set a command on the touchscreen. Ding Meng frowned and said, "Sister Yin?" Meng Yin threw her wrist device to Ding Meng. "Mr. Ting, I recorded a part of the map of this place. It can guide you back to the teleportation circle hall." Ding Meng was a bit anxious. "What about you?" Meng Yin was still setting the command. "Mr. Ting, I'm sorry. I have to stay and help you block the pursuers." Ding Meng was anxious. "They're experts on this ship. Even I am not their match. Hurry up and leave with me." Meng Yan's expression was very determined. "I'm sorry, Mr. Ting. I can't just sit by and watch Miss Lan be in trouble. Please take care of yourself." As soon as she finished speaking, the new command was set. The touchscreen exploded and the cabin door closed with a kacha. Little Rascal said, "Looks like she's locked this exit." Ding Meng let out a long sigh. His expression was very unwilling. Little Rascal said, "Forget it, Ding Meng. Meng Yin is also a loyal person. Let her be. If she really leaves with you, then she won't be her anymore. Otherwise, she wouldn't have sworn to follow you forever." Ding Meng sighed. "I hope she's fine." Little Rascal said proudly, "Only you can restrain her. Although that Gu Ping is strong, I don't think he can take Meng Yan's life. After all, she has practiced Phantom Fantasy." Ding Meng nodded. "Little Rascal, let's go." According to the map on the wristwatch, Ding Meng slowly returned along the path he came from. His current physical condition was really the worst it had ever been. Especially when he killed Jia Hua, it had already drained the last bit of energy in his body. If he were to encounter an enemy now, even a beginner origin ability user would find it hard to resist. Little Rascal knew that Ding Meng was feeling down, so he took the initiative to find a topic to talk about. "Ding Meng, Lan Bing is right. You didn't lose out this time. At least you did her." Hee. Ding Meng smiled bitterly. "She was the one who slept with me, okay?" Little Rascal chuckled. "What do you think? How do you feel?" Ding Meng smiled bitterly. "I feel like I've been hollowed out." Little Rascal smiled and said, "Fortunately, although you were tricked by that woman again, you still haven't lost your fighting spirit. We will definitely get back at her in the future." As they spoke, the teleportation formation hall appeared in their field of vision. The 16 ghost eyes were still embedded in the walls, emitting a red and white light. Even the deep pit created by the battle with Quan Jinwei was still in the center. However, when he actually returned, Ding Meng was a bit dumbfounded. This was because he didn't know which teleportation formation he had come from, or where the other 15 teleportation formations led to. This was a problem. "I knew you would come back." A hair-raising voice suddenly rang out. Ding Meng was completely shocked. He looked toward the source of the voice, and he couldn't believe his eyes. A dead person he had killed long ago was actually slowly walking out of the pit. This person was Quan Jinwei. Quan Jinwei was still different from before. His eyes were completely red, and he looked very sinister. However, his expression was very gentle. "You were originally one of us, so I knew you would come back. Welcome." The gentler his attitude was, the more fear Ding Meng felt. "You were supposed to be dead." "Dead?" Quan Jinwei laughed disdainfully. "How could I be dead? I have an immortal body. If you join us, you will obtain such power." Little Rascal suddenly said, "Ding Meng, don't believe him. He is no longer human." Ding Meng said curiously, "But he is not dead. I can feel such powerful energy waves." Little Rascal said solemnly, "No, he is no longer human. He is a type of energy body." Ding Meng said in shock, "Isn't this energy body too lifelike?" Little Rascal said, "I remember now. I have seen this type of energy body before. It is a type of energy body from a more advanced civilization in the universe. It is very powerful and is even more advanced than human civilization." Ding Meng did not have time to ask her what kind of energy body it was, because Quan Jinwei's figure was a little blurry at this time. He was mumbling, "Come, join us." enjoy the supreme power, and conquer the sea of stars that we have never been to before. Ding Ming suddenly felt a piercing pain in his head. The scenery around him began to change. It was the infectious telekinesis that Quan Jinwei had used earlier. However, Ding Ming was very weak at the moment and could not use his telekinesis to resist. In just a few seconds, he felt the world spinning around him, and he was rolling on the ground in pain. "Hang in there! Hang in there! Ding Ming!" Little rascal yelled crazily. "You must not let him assimilate you. Ding Ming! Ding Ming! Listen to my voice carefully." Ding Ming could not hear a voice. His mind was filled with all kinds of strange planets and creatures that he had never seen before. They crashed into his brain like a tidal wave. Quan Jinwei waved his hands, his expression extremely sincere. "Go, my cute child. Come into the arms of the Lord. Become a part of the Lord." Oh no! Little rascal was also shocked. She found that Ding Ming was involuntarily walking toward the second teleportation formation on the right wall. "Don't go." Little rascal gritted her teeth and secretly activated the self-destruction system. With a whoosh, Ding Ming's vision suddenly blurred. His consciousness immediately felt a familiar sensation. There was an intense pain in his eyes. The sharp and intense pain instantly spread throughout his body, causing his soul to rapidly throb. This symptom had only appeared when he was a laborer in Black Gold Base. Now, it was reactivated by Little Rascal's forceful stimulation of the fusion point. However, it was this pain that cleared his mind. The scenery around him also gradually returned to normal. However, the double pain was simply too much. That weak thought grew stronger again. "Survive. You must live. You must not die in this place." Little Rascal saw that he was getting better and could not help but encourage him loudly. "That's right. You must hold on. You must live. Do you remember those friends who sacrificed their lives for you? Don't let their sacrifice go to waste." Ding Ming gritted his teeth and adjusted his pace. He now knew that Quan Jinwei seemed to be urging him to enter the second teleportation formation. No matter where he would be teleported to, it would definitely not be a good place. Therefore, he must not go there. Just as he was feeling uncomfortable, the illusions around him suddenly dispersed and disappeared without a trace. His vision quickly returned to normal. "What's going on?" Little Rascal exclaimed in surprise. Ding Ming also turned his head curiously. He discovered that Quan Jinwei had suddenly stopped channeling his telekinesis and was staring at the entrance with an ashen face. When Ding Ming turned her head again, she felt a vast aura that she had never felt before. This powerful surge of heat made Ding Ming feel as if her face was being grilled over a fire. It was a burning pain. Gu Ping stood at the entrance with an equally ashen face. He had followed Ding Ming here, but now an extremely troublesome enemy was blocking his path. "Quan Jinwei?" Gu Ping asked coldly. "Gu Ping?" Quan Jinwei seemed a little surprised. He did not expect to meet Gu Ping here. Gu Ping said disdainfully, "When I visited your Dawn Army years ago, even Commander Jin Xian was very polite to me. You were just a communications soldier back then. How dare you block my path now?" Quan Jinwei snorted coldly and said, "Where's Chu Mingliang? Is that old dog always hiding from people? This time, they sent you, the little dog, out again." "Shut up." Gu Ping did not finish his sentence. He was like a ghost from hell, leaving behind a long black shadow at the entrance. He floated towards Ding Ming at an incredible speed. Boom! A huge golden wall was erected in front of the huge pit. Quan Jinwei's thoughts were very clear. "You want this kid, I want this kid too. I'll block you until you die." However, the black shadow was not obstructed at all. The wall of holy brilliance that Quan Jinwei was so proud of was as fragile as glass in front of Gu Ping. It was smashed into pieces with a ding sound. Quan Jinwei was shocked. Red light flashed in his demon eyes, and a halo quickly spread out. This was another invisible telekinetic wave. Gu Ping stopped charging and revealed his true body. He turned to look at Quan Jinwei and said coldly, "You dare to show off your skills? Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." Only then did Ding Ming clearly see their movements and figures. Gu Ping had almost teleported in front of Quan Jinwei and sent him flying with a slap. Before Quan Jinwei landed on the ground, Gu Ping had already appeared behind him and sent him flying with a knee strike. After that, Gu Ping appeared in the air and smashed Quan Jinwei into the huge crater like smashing rotten meat. This situation was just like when Ding Meng beat up Sun Shirling. He could only see the movements and not the person. He could only see the person bouncing around like a rubber ball. This Gu Ping's strength was simply unreasonable. The air in the hall was exploding, and the airwaves were so strong that it was difficult to keep one's eyes open. Little Rascal said anxiously, "Go. Pick a teleportation formation and leave quickly. We can't delay any longer." Ding Meng understood what she meant. It looked like Quan Jinwei couldn't withstand Gu Ping's bombardment at all. Once Quan Jinwei was taken care of, there would be no chance for him to escape from the probe ship. Lan Bing didn't jump to a conclusion. Ding Meng really owed her a life. She wouldn't give Ding Meng such an opportunity. If Ding Meng wanted to escape from the hands of an expert like Gu Ping, then it would be no different from a fool talking nonsense. "Go!" Little Rascal urged again. Ding Meng no longer hesitated and stood in front of the fifth teleportation formation on the right. Chapter 354. As Ding Meng stood in place, the Ghost Eyes demon pupil spat out a dazzling light that engulfed him. Gu Ping obviously sensed Ding Meng's intention. Trying to run? In his field of vision, Ghost Eyes created a spherical force field. It seemed like Ghost Eyes wanted to suck Ding Meng into the force field. Don't even think about it. Gu Ping, who was at the edge of the crater, teleported again. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of the teleportation formation. He did not hesitate to reach out toward Ding Meng, trying to pull Ding Meng out. However, something unexpected happened. When his hand came into contact with the force field, a strong light shot out from the surface of the force field. It was like a railgun on a battleship. With a bang, it hit the center of his palm. This energy beam forced him back a few steps. With a whoosh, the force field suddenly darkened. Ding Meng's figure disappeared. He had been sent away. Gu Ping was shocked. What the hell was that? However, he guessed that it was some kind of teleportation device. He could not help but snort coldly. "Let's see where you can run to." Just as he was about to stand in front of the teleportation formation, his wrist device vibrated violently. The system's voice rang in his ear. "A dangerous unit has infiltrated the ship and released a large amount of harmful substances. All units, please return to the ship as soon as possible." *T. Gu Ping's heart sank. He had already guessed that Ding Meng couldn't have come alone. The King of Nightmares had always been close to that kid. Perhaps he would take advantage of the chaos to hijack the probe ship. He had to return first. He guessed the identity of the person, but he did not know that almost all the workers inside the ship had collapsed in various passageways. Meng Yin did not even need to do anything. Everywhere she went, there was a thick, poisonous fog. No matter how many people came, they would all fall. Meng Yin decided to show her true form and rushed toward the operating room. Lan Bing had already tidied up her attire. She stood quietly beside the operating table. As for the two bodies on the ground, she did not even bother to look at them. The alloy door opened quickly. Meng Yin rushed in. The bodies on the ground shocked her. "Miss Lan, are you okay?" Lan Bing turned around and said, "I'm waiting for you." She had calculated that Meng Yin would definitely return after sending Ding Meng away. Meng Yin looked at the corpse with an expression of disbelief. "This is Chu Yifeng. He's actually dead," Lan Bing said indifferently. He and Jiahua were both killed by Ding Meng. Meng Yin was stunned. She knew that Ding Meng was very powerful, but it was not to the extent that he could kill Chu Yifeng on the Haitian group's exploration ship in such a short period of time. The logic was there. Aside from his own strength, this kind of big shot had other powerful means and measures to protect himself. It was impossible for him to be killed in a short period of time. Meng Yin discovered that Chu Yifeng's upper body was bare, and his lower body was only wearing underwear. Meng Yin immediately understood and asked with concern, "Miss Lan, he didn't do anything to you, right?" Lan Bing replied, "I'm fine. Meng Yin suddenly sighed. I hope you can hide it from the people of the Haitian group. Lan Bing said indifferently. It's not a problem to hide it from others, but it's impossible to hide it from an old fox like Chu Ming Liang. After a long time, he will find out. That's why I've been waiting for you. I can only be saved if you come back. Meng Yin understood and immediately went forward without saying anything. She waved her sleeves, and a purplish-red poisonous fog was spat out. The two corpses on the ground immediately began to melt at a speed visible to the naked eye. 3 minutes later, in the central control hall of the exploration ship, Meng Yin held Lan Bing hostage and slowly walked to the main control panel. Her bone spear was placed on Lan Bing's waist. There was no other reason for doing this. Other than the operating room that did not have any surveillance equipment, there were real-time surveillance cameras everywhere. Even if someone came to investigate later, no one would think that Lan Bing and Meng Yin were in cahoots. With a zhung sound, white energy beams appeared next to the main control panel. They quickly extended and combined. In a few seconds, they turned into a white pillar of light. Meng Yin and Lan Bing walked into the pillar of light. If this scene was seen by Ding Ming, he could only sigh in admiration. This was because this was Lan Bing's final trump card, Phantom Transmission. Not only did she calculate the consequences of today's incident, but she had also arranged a backup plan for herself. She personally killed Chu Yifeng, borrowed Ding Ming's hand to get rid of Jiahua, summoned Meng Yin to protect Ding Ming and leave, lured Gu Ping to chase after her, successfully pushed all the blame onto Ding Ming, and finally used Phantom Transmission to leave safely. Everything that happened here did not leave behind any clues. Only she and Ding Ming knew. Of course, according to her calculations, Ding Ming should have been caught by Gu Ping by now. With Ding Ming's stubborn personality, he should have died at Gu Ping's hands. As for the K-virus, it had nothing to do with her, and she was not interested in it. Everything was flawless and flawless. If there was a trace of regret, it would be that she had paid the price with her body. However, all of this was worth it to her. On the other side of the teleportation formation, Ding Ming looked around in shock. This was a very spacious space, or rather, it was a plaza that stretched as far as the eye could see. The ground of the plaza seemed to be paved with sparkling and translucent crystals. When he stepped on them, these crystals seemed to feel the pressure and actually lit up with a faint light. Some fine lines and strange patterns appeared on the surface of the light. After taking a few steps forward, the same thing happened beneath his feet. Ding Ming simply pressed his palms against the ground. The place where his palms came into contact with the crystals also lit up, producing the same lines and patterns. However, depending on the strength applied, the lines and patterns would be different. What is this thing? Ding Ming was sure that this was definitely not a real crystal. He raised his head and looked around. Apart from the ground and the ceiling, he could not see the end of this space. Moreover, the height of this space was not low. It was at least 100 meters high. Forget it. Let's not worry about this for now. I should recover as soon as possible. With this thought in mind, Ding Ming opened the Starbow Group's Starbow multi-purpose backpack. Before he left, the transit string had prepared a bunch of supplements for him. Ding Ming did not choose any amplification agent because he knew that amplification agents would cause him to develop a resistance to them. He was quite weak at the moment, so he simply swallowed a few dozen super polymeric nutrient solutions. His current state was similar to when he had first come into contact with origin energy in Black Gold Base. He had to rely on nutrient solutions to fill his stomach before he could absorb origin energy. A few minutes later, after fully absorbing the nutrient solutions, Ding Ming finally felt less weak. He sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes, silently activating his telekinesis vision. His telekinesis vision was only able to extend to a range of 5 meters before he recovered his strength. Little Rascal said, "Huh? That's not right. Why isn't there even the slightest bit of origin energy in this place?" Ding Ming also noticed this problem. In the past, his telekinesis vision would see specks of origin energy in the air, but now his vision was terrifyingly empty. Apart from the crystals on the ground, there was not even a single hair in the air. Is there a problem with my telekinesis vision? Ding Meng became nervous. Little Rascal said, "Definitely not. I can share my vision with you, so I know if there's a problem. This place is very strange. Ding Meng, let's try another place." Okay. Ding Meng stood up again. He carried his backpack and walked about 100 meters before sitting down cross-legged again. Unfortunately, his telekinesis vision was still empty. Apart from the crystals, there were still more crystals. That's strange. Ding Meng also felt that something was wrong. This time, he decided to just walk a bit further away and try again. Still, there was nothing. The wonderful origin energy that he had imagined didn't even have a single particle. "Let's walk a bit further and try again," Little Rascal said. Ding Meng continued walking for about 6 kilometers. He tried 4 different places in a row, but they were all the same. There really wasn't a single speck of origin energy in this place. Ding Meng was dumbfounded. "What the hell is this place?" Little Rascal muttered to herself. "I'm guessing that we've been teleported into a sealed space." Her analysis wasn't without reason. Origin energy was omnipresent in the universe. Even a vacuum would be filled with origin energy. However, this place clearly wasn't a vacuum. At the very least, there was enough oxygen for humans to breathe. In that case, there was only one possibility. This was a special space that had been artificially created. Little Rascal suddenly said, "Ding Meng, how many telekinesis dots can you release right now?" Ding Meng sighed. 7 dots at most. Little Rascal said, "Let's continue. This time, follow my instructions. Shrink your vision to a range of 1 meter and release only 1 dot. Focus your attention on that." Ding Meng did as he was told. Little Rascal continued, "Attach this dot to the crystal on the ground." As soon as the telekinesis dot came into contact with the ground, the palm-sized crystal immediately underwent some changes. Red energy was faintly visible to the naked eye, and it seemed like the energy was converging toward the dot. 2 seconds later, the telekinesis dot exploded with a boom. A large expanse of red light filled the 1-meter diameter of the telekinesis field. Although this light was called light, it actually looked more like a torrent of energy. It instantly surrounded Ding Meng from head to toe. Ding Meng was given a fright. He felt an unknown energy that he had never experienced before seeping into his body. This energy was so vast that it actually caused the dim and lightless origin to spontaneously activate. Moreover, it was operating at an insane speed that he had never seen before. Even if Ding Meng were to activate it at the most critical moment, he wouldn't be able to move even a tenth of this speed. "Stop!" Little Rascal yelled. Ding Meng was given quite a fright. He hurriedly shut off his telekinesis field. After all, neither he nor Little Rascal knew whether this energy was beneficial or harmful. However, at this moment, Xiao AI's voice mysteriously rang out. "ACT 5570, congratulations. You and the support system are going to strike it rich this time." Chapter 355. Little Rascal cried out in pleasant surprise. "Xiao AI, you've been reactivated?" Xiao AI replied disdainfully. "Nonsense. ACT 5570 absorbed so much energy all of a sudden. Even if I was shut down, I would still be reactivated." "So much energy?" Ding Meng and Little Rascal asked in unison. Xiao AI said proudly, "Look inside your body." Ding Meng activated his telekinesis vision again. To his surprise, he discovered that not only had the first origin regained its luster, but it had also doubled in size. Its rotation speed was completely out of his control, and the golden blood molecules were also circulating faster. Ding Meng's body felt extremely cool and comfortable. He knew that this was a sign of origin energy being absorbed and utilized. Ding Meng's eyes widened. "That's impossible. The origin has automatically recovered." Xiao AI was silent for a moment before saying, "If my guess is correct, these crystals on the ground should belong to the legendary divine light technology." Little Rascal's tone also became exaggerated. "Are you sure you're not mistaken?" Ding Meng also sucked in a breath of cold air. His surprise was no less than Little Rascal's. When he was at Starlight University, his mentor, Stephen, had mentioned Xinguang technology in his teaching memory. It was a super technology that could freely convert energy between light, solid, and liquid. The principle of this conversion technology was extremely profound, and the Federal Empire knew nothing about it. It was limited to theoretical research on boson force fields, Fermion force fields, and so on. According to Professor Stevens' explanation, divine light technology could only be possessed by God-level civilizations in the universe. The general idea behind this technology originated from the Big Bang. The universe was formed from the explosion of a single point. The point formed a surface, and the surface expanded into space. The origin of space was derived from light, so this divine light technology could be used for almost everything. The most classic example was that it could create substances with identical physical structures. The crystals on the ground were the legendary divine light crystals. They could be solid or liquid, and they could even conduct energy. Most importantly, they were very small in mass and volume, making them extremely convenient to use. To the weak human civilization, this type of technology was practically a mythical existence. Now that the legendary technology had appeared before his eyes, Ding Meng calmed down. "Where's this place? Where was I teleported to?" Little rascal mused. If this is a divine light crystal, wouldn't Ding Meng be fully healed in just a few seconds? Xiao AI said, "In theory, yes, but I don't recommend it." Ding Meng asked curiously why. Xiao AI said, "I just checked the energy you absorbed. I discovered that its composition is very similar to the energy of the inverse source crystal in the Blue Moon branch of the Starbao Corporation." Similar? Ding Meng was confused again. Xiao AI explained. "From the looks of it, they are two completely different types of energy, but their composition is very similar. I'm guessing that they were formed by the same principle or in the same environment." Ding Meng understood. Although this energy could restore the origin, it was still unknown. To be safe, it was best not to consume too much of it. Little rascal said, "There must be a way out of this space. We just haven't found it yet. Ding Meng, why don't we just walk around a bit more?" Ding Meng nodded. That was exactly what he had in mind. And so, they continued to walk forward. After walking for another 10 kilometers or so, an anomaly finally appeared. 20 meters in front of them, the air suddenly warped and rippled like water. A powerful wave of energy was being generated. Ding Meng immediately perked up. He could already see that this ball of energy was taking shape. A few seconds later, it had transformed into a humanoid pupil of light. Little rascal was surprised. "Isn't that you, Ding Meng?" Ding Meng could also tell that this humanoid pupil of light really was generated based on his figure and appearance. Even a backpack on his waist was the same shape. The only difference was that this pupil of light was translucent. Little rascal said, "I understand now. When you were walking on the ground, just now, those glowing crystals were collecting information about you. Now that they've finished collecting information, they've replicated an identical version of you." Xiao AI reminded him, "Be careful." The pupil of light had already charged forward and was heading straight for Ding Meng. Ding Meng was already mentally prepared. With a flick of his wrist, the T-shaped claw blade flipped to his fingertips. He did not dare to be careless when facing a replica created by this kind of super technology. However, this pupil of light was a little clumsy and did not seem to know much about martial arts. It simply charged at Ding Meng like an idiot, using its body to ram against him. Ding Meng had not recovered his strength yet, so he did not dare to act rashly. He took a step forward, suddenly turned around, bent over, and threw the pupil of light over his shoulder. Without waiting for the pupil to fall to the ground, Ding Meng immediately leaped up and slashed with a backhand chop. This chop cut into the pupil of light's wrist with great precision. What followed was naturally Ding Meng's set of bone-splitting saber techniques. He cut the wrist, severed the tendons, pulled upward, and finally cut the throat. This set was usually fatal. Sure enough, the pupil of light gradually dimmed and then slowly turned into nothingness. At the same time the pupil of light disappeared, ripples appeared in the air again, tearing a hole in the air. The hole slowly expanded and turned into the shape of a door. It was impossible to see what was behind the door because it was filled with a swirling ball of strong light. Little Rascal was overjoyed. It must be the exit. Ding Ming jumped in without a word. However, he was a little dumbfounded the next moment. The world behind the door was exactly the same as the space they had been in earlier. It was a crystal plaza that stretched as far as the eye could see. Little Rascal was also dumbfounded. What's going on? Xiao AI clearly could not figure out either, so she simply remained silent. Little Rascal said in a low voice, "Let's walk a little more. There must be a way out." As they walked a little more, the same thing happened. The air distorted, energy fluctuated, and a new human-shaped pupil of light appeared. However, this pupil of light was clearly much more powerful than the previous one, because it was holding an energy claw blade of the same shape in its hand. Moreover, it immediately used Ding Ming's classic move, carp leaping over the dragon's gate, backhand slash. It was really fast and powerful. Ding Ming fought the claw blade with the claw blade. The two claw blades clashed with each other, and the two of them also exchanged punches and kicks. They were almost evenly matched. This time it took 2 minutes. In the end, Ding Ming had to use Flame Energy Rushing Punch to just barely beat the pupil of light back. In the end, he had to use the bone-splitting technique to finish off the pupil of light. After that, the portal of light appeared again. Little Rascal said hesitantly, "Could this be some kind of test?" Ding Ming understood what she meant. Two identical teleportations had created two copies of themselves. Moreover, their abilities were about the same. It could even be said that the Xinguang Biotechnology's copy had an extremely strong learning ability. It could immediately learn whatever moves one used. It was as good as one's. Xiao AI said, "Don't go in for the time being. I suggest you absorb the energy of the divine light crystal and restore the operation of the second origin before going in. That way, you can guarantee that you'll win the next time you teleport." Ding Ming nodded. This was undoubtedly the safest way. What happened next was as expected. When they were teleported into the Crystal Plaza, it was still the same human-shaped pupil of light. Not only did the pupil of light have a claw blade, it could also use Flame Energy Rushing Punch. It was completely on par with Ding Ming in terms of strength. This super technology was indeed super technology. Ding Ming now knew how powerful this light pupil was. The other party was completely using Ding Ming's method to deal with her. If she didn't hold back, she wouldn't be able to defeat it. Fortunately, Ding Ming had learned a lot during his time in Starlight University. Holy Flame Formation, Holy Tiger Yang Palm, 7-star Punch, Transient Steps, Afterimage Gale. In any case, he could always rely on new tricks to defeat Guangtong. However, after defeating 9 pupils of light in succession, Ding Ming was a little worried. He had now restored the first 4 origins, and their capacity, size, and speed were several times stronger than before. This was obviously a good thing, but the problem was that the portal of light was still there, and the pupil of light was still at the same level. If the 8th origin was restored and normal, he dared not imagine how difficult it would be to fight the pupil of light. If 2 completely normal Ding Ming fought, there would only be one outcome, and that would be a slow battle of attrition. Moreover, the attrition would be very great until one of them died of exhaustion. Ding Ming was confident that he could defeat the pupil of light, but when would the teleportation end? If he continued to fight, it would not be worth it to use ultimate techniques such as Diamond Star Sword Technique, Solitary Sword of Zhao, and Solitary Dance of the Dark Lotus. "We definitely have to fight," Xiao AI said. "Just treat it as training. Moreover, this kind of training opportunity is very rare. I estimate that you can still fight about 10 mirror images. We have the advantage." All right. Ding Ming was a little helpless. He had encountered many strong enemies before. Starting from the Black Gold base, there were Leopard, Machine Gun, Sadler, Julie, Salazar, Lan Bing, Rintu, Rinzhan, Jia Mao, Ming Yin, Cheng Rifeng, Lu Ming, Hao Feng, Baiyu, Zhang Hai, Quan Jinwei. These people had more or less caused him trouble, but he now understood how these people felt. It was so painful to fight with him. It did not feel good at all. Now, this light pupil could resist, attack, and dodge. Not only was it fast, but it was also very timely and reasonable. It felt like it had a life of its own. Ding-Meng felt a headache coming on. Fortunately, he had the help of the transit string this time. Although he did not have much in his rainbow backpack, he had enough supplies and enhancement items to last him for a year. Otherwise, Ding-Meng would have been killed by the claws by the time he reached the 14th light pupil. By the time he reached the 19th light pupil, Ding-Meng had recovered all his origin points. What's more, he had also refined the essence of the diamond star fusing art. If he did not use his ultimate skill for the next light pupil, he would not be able to defeat it. How long has it been? Ding-Meng could not help but ask. Little Rascal said, "It's been 8 hours, 34 minutes, and 56 seconds. Continue." Ding-Meng stood up and walked towards the light door. He thought that an identical version of himself would jump out this time. Who knew that his vision would go black, and the whole world would be plunged into eternal darkness? Now that Ding-Meng's strength had recovered, he immediately opened his telekinesis vision. He was surprised to find that he was no longer in the plaza. Instead, he was in a small, messy, and dilapidated room. This room was a little like the connecting cabin passageway on a starship. This was because there was a circular cabin door in front of him. However, the cabin door was not the automatic alloy door that was controlled by the system. Instead, it was a very old mechanical steel door. In the middle of the door was a rotating disc. It was obviously a manual switch. "What is this place?" Ding-Meng asked curiously. Chapter 356. Finally, someone is here. A sigh came from the darkness. Actually, this was not a real voice, but a telepathic message. Ding-Meng could sense it because he had already seen that on the left and right sides of the hatch, there was an ugly humanoid robot lying on the ground. The robots seemed to have been lying there for many years, as the surface of the metal was covered in dust and rust. This kind of robot was called the crystal energy artificial body. After the death of a person, the spirit body could attach itself to it and then command the body to move. However, these two models of artificial bodies were too old and were definitely not the current mainstream products. "Who are you?" Ding-Meng asked. The eyes of the artificial body on the left suddenly began to flash red. Clearly, the internal crystal energy system had been reactivated and was injecting energy into the alloy body. The artificial body slowly stood up, and its tone was very surprised. "Huh, young man, is this backpack the rainbow model? Isn't the rainbow model still in development? Has it been successfully developed?" Ding-Meng was stunned. Although the rainbow backpack was a new product of the Starbow Group, it had been out for many years. Could this spirit body have been here for many years? The artificial body's voice became even more surprised. "Young man, are you from the Starbow Group?" Ding-Meng nodded. "Yes, I am from the Starbow Group." The artificial body seemed to be very excited. "That's great. Which branch of the Starbow Group are you from? Are you the search and rescue team arranged by CEO Ling? Or are you from the security department? You look so young. You should be from the energy survey department, right?" He asked many questions in one breath, and Ding-Meng really could not answer him. However, it seemed that this spirit body had a deep relationship with the Starbow Group when it was alive. So he asked in return, "Who are you?" The artificial body's electronic eyes flashed a few times, and the light dimmed a lot. Its voice was also very sad. "I am the same kind of person as you. I was originally a human. If you must ask for my name, I can also tell you that my name is Makoto Fujin." Makoto Fujin? Ding-Meng was really shocked. You? You are the one who was certified as the #1 Origin Energy Combat Master in the Starlight examination 27 years ago? The artificial body smiled bitterly. "I didn't expect that there would still be people who know about me." Ding-Meng was so shocked that he was almost speechless. "Didn't President Zhu say that you died in outer space? The Federation even sent out a special fleet to search for you, but they couldn't find you even after 3 years." Fujin Jun smiled bitterly. "Yes, I'm dead. I died 20 years ago. If it wasn't for this crystal energy artificial body, my soul would have been scattered long ago, his tone became concerned again. Where's Teacher Zhu been? Is he okay now? Ding Ming nodded and said, he is very good. He is now the principal of Starlight University. Makoto Fuma sighed. That's good, that's good. Ding Ming asked, Senior Phone, what is this place? Fujin Makoto said, this is the S expedition that I rode in outer space back then. We are now in the connecting cabin of the starship. The S expedition? Ding Ming still felt that his brain was not working properly. Divine light technology was actually so powerful. That ghost eyes demonic I had transported him here and there. Could have transported him to outer space this time. Little thing, you're quite good at lying. You're trying to fool the youngsters. An old, hoarse voice suddenly rang out. Ding Ming turned his head to look. The electronic eyes of the crystal energy artificial body on the right had also turned red. It had probably seen that someone had come and had reactivated its power system. Fujin Makoto Fuma saw that the artificial body had awakened and was furious. Old bastard, you've been pretending to be dead all this time. The artificial body laughed sinisterly. Ha ha ha. Little thing, my life is tough. How could I die before you do? Fujin Makoto Fuma immediately turned around and said, young man, this guy is not human. Kill him, and let's get out of here together. Not human? Ding Ming was stunned again. Then what is he? Fujin Makoto Fuma said angrily. This guy is a world-devouring monster. Monster? The artificial body was also a bit annoyed. You humans really like to think that you're infallible. Young man, let me tell you, remember my name. In your human language, my name is Shueyu Mountain. I'm an elder of the Bloodprint clan in the devouring world. Damn, Ding Ming was shocked once again. The spirit in this artificial body was actually an elder of the devouring world. This was equivalent to an origin force warrior in the human world. It seemed that Fujin Makoto Fuma and Shueyu Mountain definitely had a deep grudge when they were alive. As soon as they saw each other, they began to curse each other. However, these two fellows were already dead. Now that they were relying on the crystal energy artificial bodies to survive, it was impossible for them to use their abilities as origin ability users and the devouring world's abilities. It was equivalent to the two of them becoming half-spirit, half-metal mechanical bodies. The Bloodprint clan is just trash. Scram. Fujin Makoto Fuma looked as if he was about to rush up and kick Shueyu Mountain. Shueyu Mountain wasn't willing to be outdone. His body swayed as he tried to rush up and kick Fujin Makoto Fuma. However, these two artificial bodies were too old, and their movements were too clumsy. It was as if two toys were about to fight. Ding Ming felt that this was rather funny. Would you believe that a combat master and an elder were fighting? However, they were currently in an unknown territory. Ding Ming hurriedly stepped forward. All right. Seniors, please stop. I have some questions that I would like to ask the two of you. Shueyu Mountain was obviously quite fond of the term senior, especially when a human called him senior. He knew that this was a form of respect for experts in the human world. After all, humans viewed the devouring world as monsters. Shueyu Mountain retreated to the side. Little thing, you don't have as much energy as I do. It's best if you don't get physical. Once you run out of energy, you'll disappear into thin air. Fujin Makoto Fuma said angrily, don't worry. When I die, I'll definitely drag you down with me. Shueyu Mountain laughed heartily. Die? You've already died once. You're now a dead man. When you were alive, you couldn't defeat me. Now that you are dead, you still can't win against me. What do you mean by being my scapegoat? Fujin Makoto Fuma seemed to want to attack again. Scoundrel, I can exterminate you at any time. Ding Ming helplessly said, all right. Both of you, please calm down. He secretly released his mental force and gently separated the two of them. Fujin Makoto Fuma clearly sensed it and couldn't help but say in astonishment, you aren't weak. Shueyu Mountain's tone was very grave. This presence, you're actually a fluxer. Only then did Fujin Makoto Fuma pay more attention to Ding Ming. Little brother is young, but your cultivation is quite high. I still haven't asked for your name. Ding Ming said, Senior Feng, I am also a student of Starry Splendor University. After the entrance exam, I joined Starry Rainbow Corporation. My name is Ding Ming. Fujin Makoto Fuma hesitantly asked, "How old is Brother Ding this year?" Ding Ming said 22. Fujin Makoto and Shueyu Mountain simultaneously sucked in a cold breath. To be able to cultivate a universal type of mental force at the age of 22, this youngster's cultivation couldn't be lower than that of a battle master. He might even be a battle general. Fujin Makoto Fuma said, "Brother Ding should have obtained first place in the entrance exam, right?" Ding Ming nodded. "First place in this year's entrance exam." Fujin Makoto Fuma said, "This is truly worthy of celebration. There is hope for us to return to the Federation." Ding Ming hesitantly asked, "Could it be that we are in outer space right now?" Fujin Makoto Fuma said, "If I'm not mistaken, we should be in outer space." Shueyu Mountain sneered, "If I'm not mistaken, it has already been 20 years. Who the hell knows where we are now?" Ding Ming muttered to himself irresolutely. "So you were saying that I was directly teleported from the Bramble Bird Planet to outer space? What are you talking about?" Fujin Makoto Fuma's expression seemed to have changed. His electronic eyes flashed rapidly. Shueyu Mountain's tone was especially cold. "The Bramble Bird Planet? Your Holy Grail Federation's lindefaction?" Ding Ming nodded. "Yes. Is there a problem?" Fujin Makoto Fuma's tone was extremely serious. "Could it be that the spaceship has drifted over?" "Brother Ding, wait a minute. Can you tell me in detail how you got here?" Hearing his serious tone, Ding Ming also felt that something was amiss. So, he described Linda's riot and also explained how he had been teleported over. However, when he described the plaza, Fujin Makoto and Shueyu Mountain both exclaimed in surprise. "You went into the warehouse." "Warehouse?" Ding Ming expressed his confusion. Fujin Makoto Fuma let out a long sigh. "The energy warehouse of Xinguang Technologies. It's something we have always dreamed of. I didn't expect you to be able to enter it by chance. It's a pity that you didn't stay for long." Ding Ming was puzzled. "What's going on?" Fujin Makoto said, "Forget it. Let the old bastard explain it to you. He knows a lot." 27 years ago, in outer space 50 light years away from the devouring realm, a space-time rift suddenly appeared without warning. A shocking mass of energy emerged from it. From the outside, this mass of energy looked like a bright white comet. However, it was on the verge of collapse and constantly changing its form. One moment, it was like a ball of light. The next, it was like a building, and the next, it was like a pool of transparent liquid. The Devouring Realm's reconnaissance spirit demons and the Frogman Kingdom's reconnaissance ships noticed it at the same time. This was most likely the legendary Xinguang starship. Whether it was the Holy Grail Federation, the Norse Empire, or the Devouring Realm's frogmen, they did not dare to have any designs on this godlike object. However, after sacrificing thousands of reconnaissance spirit demons, the Devouring Realm was finally able to confirm that this Xinguang starship had most likely been severely damaged by a powerful enemy in a distant space-time. It had no choice but to open a space-time rift to perform a space jump. Unexpectedly, it had escaped to the vicinity of the Devouring Realm. The three families would not let go of such an opportunity. However, it was the Frogman Kingdom's reconnaissance ship that got there first. When the ship approached the starship, it was sucked into the vortex like a water droplet. After that, there was no more information. Fujin Makoto's SS expedition happened to be traveling in outer space at the time. The SS expedition was the second starship to be sucked into the vortex, while the blood demons of Shueyu Mountain were the third to be sucked in. Ding Ming could not help but ask, "Were you guys all right?" Fujin Makoto nodded and said, "Just like your previous teleportation, we were directly sent into the interior of the Xinguang starship." Ding Ming asked, "What does the interior of the starship look like?" Fujin Makoto shook his head helplessly. "I really can't describe it for you. The technological level of this civilization is completely beyond our imagination." Chapter 357. Fujin Jun shook his head and sighed, but the scene of him boarding the Divine Light starship seemed to replay in his mind. It was a world of light. The starship's internal structure was roughly the same as a human starship's, but all the walls, floors, corridors, control panels, and facilities were made of light. The only difference was the color of the light, but they could change forms at will. For example, when Fusion Jun and a group of Origin Ability users entered the corridor, the light in the corridor immediately turned into a solid alloy material. Clearly, it was meant for humans to walk. Although the SS Expedition starship had been sucked in by a strange force, this Divine Light starship didn't seem to have any evil intentions. It was parked in the same space as the Frogman's exploration ship. Dingmeng was curious. No evil intentions? Fujinjin nodded. Yes. After we got off the ship, we didn't find any living creatures nearby, including the green wild-class exploration ship of the Frogman. There wasn't a single monster on it. Dingmeng asked, "What about other places?" "Senior, have you searched?" Fujin Zhan said, "We've searched everywhere. This Divine Light starship really doesn't have a single person. There isn't even a trace of life." Dingmeng asked according to Little Rascal's instructions. "Is there such a possibility? We humans and the devouring world are all silicon-based life forms, but the Divine Light civilization's life forms are different, such as electromagnetic life forms, bosonic life forms, and degenerate life forms." Absolutely impossible. This time, it was Shuiyu Mountain who answered him. "It doesn't matter if there are other life forms. As long as they're alive, they have consciousness. With consciousness, they can produce energy. We can naturally detect energy fluctuations." Dingmeng nodded. Shuiyu Mountain's analysis made sense. Fujin Zhen continued. "This starship is like a ghost ship. The strange thing is that there's clearly no one on it, but its system is running automatically. It doesn't seem like a central system like an AI, because it can change its flight path at any time." Dingmeng understood. They had to find the command center's control panel to figure out the reason. "Senior Fujin, you must have found the command center, right?" Dingmeng asked. Makoto Fujin turned his head to look at the Shuiyu Mountain. "Old trash, and I met in the command center." Shuiyu Mountain replied proudly, "Little brat, you're not too bad. You were able to kill several hundred of my subordinates. It's already not bad that a mere combat master like you is able to fight me to a draw." Fujin Zhen sneered. "A draw? If you didn't devour your hundreds of disciples and grand disciples, you would have been killed by me." Shuiyu Mountain said disdainfully, "You humans can't understand our great evolution. You think you're so great after devouring your own kind?" Feng Jianzhen was even more disdainful. Shuiyu Mountain retorted, "What about you? You can only watch hundreds of your brothers die." Fujin Zhen said, "Umph." Shuiyu Mountain said, "Umph." Dingmeng sighed. "If I'm not wrong, the two seniors should have all died in that battle. The two of you should have been heavily injured as well." Fujin Zhen said, "That's because my injuries were too heavy. I needed time to recover. Otherwise, old trash would have died long ago." Shuiyu Mountain laughed. "Keep bragging. This Divine Light starship doesn't have a homogeneous environment. Most of my energy has to be used to adapt to the Divine Light around me. Otherwise, do you think you would still be able to speak?" Dingmeng said, "But the two of you didn't fight each other in the end." This was also a strange thing. The deep hatred between the Federation and the Devourer world wasn't just a matter of one or two lives. It wasn't just a matter of one or two lives. Tens of billions of resources, wealth, and lives were piled up. Therefore, it was a miracle that the two of them could still coexist peacefully. Of course, there was definitely a reason that no one knew about. Although the two of them didn't say anything, the two of them knew the reason. After a fierce battle that day, the control hall was littered with the corpses of human soldiers. The two of them leaned against the wall and rested. Shuiyu Mountain was an elder. He would definitely recover faster than Fujin Zhen. After he recovered, the first thing he did was not to kill Fujin Zhen. Instead, he checked the control panel, clearly trying to find something useful. After all, they were on the Divine Light starship. If he found one or two technologies and brought them back to the Devourer world for research, perhaps the entire frogman race of the Federal Empire would be wiped out. Dingmeng said, "Did you find it?" Makoto Fuma laughed coldly. "It'd be strange if he could find it. He couldn't even understand the language of the Xinguang civilization. Instead, he rummaged through the cabinets and found something that looked like a test tube. From that moment on, we were out of luck. Shui Mountain's tone sounded regretful. Yes, I should have listened to you. Otherwise, we wouldn't have ended up like this. Ding Ming frowned. What test tube? Fujin Zhan said. There was a brown life form that looked like a droplet of water in the test tube. At the time, I sensed it. That droplet of water had an extremely weak life force. Shui Mountain said, I sensed it too. My instincts told me that this might have something to do with the divine light civilization. Fujin Zhan said, I advise you not to open that thing at the time. I felt that it was not normal for this starship to have transmigrated here. To be safe, it was best not to open it. When he said not to open it, Ding Ming could tell that Shui Mountain must have opened it. Actually, this mentality was easy to understand. No matter who boarded the Divine Light starship from the Federation or the Devourer world, they would have tried to understand this civilization. If it had been Ding Ming, he would have opened it too. Fujin Zhan was not as immature as Principal Zhu had said. This droplet of water was naturally released. It was very strange. It could float freely in the air and grow rapidly within a few minutes. It was as if it had absorbed part of the energy of the divine light around it. This growth speed shocked even a prodigy like Fujin Zhan. It's like Fujin Zhan's tone was full of fear. It's like a single cell that suddenly evolved into a spongy body. He finally found a reasonable analogy. Ding Ming was also shocked. In the history of mankind, it took hundreds of millions of years for a single cell to evolve into a sponge, but it only took a few minutes for a water droplet to evolve. Actually, Shui Mountain also felt that something was wrong, but it was impossible to put the droplet back. Most importantly, the droplet could communicate with them. The droplet burrowed into the body of an adjutant on the ground. The body immediately woke up and told the two of them that he was actually a member of the Divine Light civilization. He had been engaged in a battle in a distant space battlefield. All his companions had been killed by strong enemies, and he had been beaten back to his original form. At the critical moment, he had sealed himself and forcefully opened a space-time rift to escape here. He needed their help. With Fujin Zhan and Shui Mountain's knowledge and experience, they definitely did not dare to trust each other. Ding Ming's tone turned cold. But convinced you? Fujin Zhan sighed. It's my fault. It told me that there was a warehouse of divine light technologies on the starship. The warehouse had the divine light technology that we wanted, but the mainframe system was afraid that the enemy would capture us, so it automatically activated protective measures. It told me to operate the main control panel according to its instructions, and then I became addicted to it. Shui Mountain's electronic eyes glanced at Fujin Zhan and sighed deeply. It's not your fault. It's my fault. Fujin Zhan was shocked. Why? Shui Mountain sighed. When I first boarded the starship, I carefully observed these symbols of divine light technologies. I realized that they were very similar to some of the array patterns in our devouring world. Some of the glyphs even matched. I guessed that our devouring world might have some connection with the divine light civilization. Even if we didn't, I was confident that I could decipher them. These two had disliked each other before, and now they were blaming each other. Ding Ming could only sigh. Sometimes, the only people you could appreciate were your enemies. Just like Lan Bing's theory, only a true enemy would study you, value you, and trust you. So, did you manage to decipher it? Ding Ming continued to ask. Shui Mountain sighed heavily this time. Although I didn't decipher it completely, I guessed the general meaning. This time, Ding Ming did not have to ask. Fujin Zhan explained. The water droplet sealed in the test tube is not a divine light life form. It is a sample that the divine light life form normally uses for experiments. It comes from another civilization that is almost extinct. On some planets with extreme environments, there are life forms that use liquid helium as the foundation and superconducting electricity, superconducting energy, and superconducting sapiens as the medium. They are not afraid of cold or high temperatures. They have very strong abilities to imitate, devour, replicate, and evolve infinitely. They are terrifying special life forms that have dominated the universe for billions of years. The only weakness of this special life form is that its initial form is too weak. Once it is placed in an environment with abundant energy, it can grow rapidly. Its growth rate is terrifying. After it reaches a certain level, even the divine light civilization finds it difficult to deal with. Therefore, after the divine light people sealed it, they repeatedly emphasized in the instruction that it must not be released in non-experimental environments. Not only can it threaten a civilization, but it can also threaten a star cluster or even hundreds of star clusters. Dingming was also shocked. He also knew that in the vast and infinite universe, humans boasted of being an advanced race. However, humans were definitely not creatures that were strong on their own. On the contrary, humans were very weak. Compared to the special life form, humans were really, really weak. Shuyu Mountain sighed. Actually, it allowed Fujin Jun to operate the control panel because it saw the intelligence and wisdom of human origin ability users. Its goal was not to let us obtain the technology of the divine light civilization. It was because it was very weak and could not understand the powerful principles behind the technology of the divine light civilization. It wanted to use Fujin Jun to open the warehouse and absorb the divine light energy inside. Everything it told us was a lie. Dingming also smelled a bad signal. This was the rhythm of something super big. Sure enough, Fujin Jun sighed deeply. By the time the two of us figured out the truth, it was already too late. Chapter 358. Dingming's heart sank. He asked, "You two attacked it?" Fujama Jun said, "At that time, it wasn't very strong. At most, it was at the level of an advanced warrior. However, there was a problem. We couldn't kill it. It survived by attaching itself to corpses. Every time we killed it, we only destroyed the corpses it was attached to. Its droplet form was very difficult to destroy. It could quickly attach itself to other corpses and survive." Shui Yushan said, "And it was constantly absorbing the inherent energy of the starship, increasing its strength time and time again. We were on this divine light starship, and it was a battle of attrition, delaying it for an entire 7 years. After 7 years, it won and we died." Dingming pondered and said, "But why didn't the Federation's patrol fleet discover you two during these 7 years? And Senior Blood's devouring realm, why couldn't they find you?" Shuyu Mountain laughed bitterly. "This divine light starship's technology is very powerful. While the droplet was fighting with us, it was also constantly growing. It devoured these human corpses and obtained their memories. Using this limited knowledge, it was able to learn a small part of the starship's functions. At least, it definitely knows the functions of invisibility, teleportation, and camouflage that you often talk about." Dingming suddenly understood. No wonder the Federation's special patrol fleet couldn't find anything after searching for Senior Feng for 3 years. It was because of that strange creature. Fujama Jun sighed. "The last battle between me and the old bastard was under the expedition starship. We couldn't defeat it even if we worked together." Shui Weshan sighed and said, "Little thing, although I look down on you humans who think you're smart, I still have to thank you that time. If it wasn't for your quick reaction and making 2 crystal energy artificial bodies beforehand, I would have already turned into ashes." Fujama Jin sighed. "Forget it. What's the point of mentioning this now? I've calculated that 20 years have passed since we died." Shuyu Mountain sighed with emotion. "That darn thing only took 7 years to become an advanced warlord. Now that 20 years have passed, according to your Federation standards, it's probably already a warlord, right? He might even be a battle saint. In our devouring world, we might need a sect master to deal with it." "That's not necessarily true," Fujama Jun retorted. "When I was studying the starship system, I discovered that although Shunguang technology was powerful and its energy source was unique, the starship had suffered great damage. The real people of Xinguang must have activated protective measures. All the secrets, technology, data, and the most important core energy source were locked in the warehouse. After I died, even if that darn thing swallowed my body it wouldn't be able to find a way to unlock it within 20 years. After all, the Xinguang civilization is too powerful. He paused. I'm guessing that when the Xinguang starship was attacked, the people of Xinguang were all dead. Besides the warehouse, I also discovered that the starship's basic energy source is a type of miraculous energy source that could be recycled and reused. However, the overall amount of this energy source is not high. Even if the droplet absorbed all of it, it wouldn't have been able to become a warlord. Furthermore, this creature is very cunning and smart. If it had any brains, it wouldn't have absorbed all of the starship's energy. Dingming and Shuiyu Mountain agreed with this analysis. Once the Xinguang starship stopped its basic operations due to energy issues, it was equivalent to a floating coffin in the universe. No matter how powerful the droplet was, it could only be powerful in this coffin. What use would it be? Shuiyu Mountain said, is there such a possibility? It would think of ways to find a new energy source. Dingming suddenly said expressionlessly, yes, and this possibility is infinitely close to reality. Why? The two of them asked in unison. Dingming's gaze landed on Fujin Zhen. Senior Fujin, when you were alive, did you cultivate infectious psychokinesis? Fujin Zhen was stunned. That's right. Dingming then looked at Shuiyu Mountain. Senior Fujin, when you were alive, did you have an extremely strong homogenization ability and adaptability ability? Were you stronger than the other elders in the Devouring Realm? Shuiyu Mountain was shocked. How did you know? Dingming sighed. I'm almost certain now that the droplet you're talking about is hiding in the Federation's Linda faction's Thorn Planet. Fujin Zhen and Shuiyu Mountain's electronic eyes lit up. What? Dingming paused as if he was sorting out all the clues. Then he said, back then, after you fought with it and died, it must have used your corpses to obtain your memories and knowledge. Then it began to research how to become stronger. Fujin Zhen nodded in approval. That's right. If I were it, I would do the same. Dingming raised 3 fingers. There are 3 paths for it to take. First, continue to research the starship system and try to open the warehouse to obtain energy as soon as possible. Fujin Zhen said, but that's not realistic. Even if it has my knowledge and Old Trash's deciphering ability, it won't be able to understand the starship system without a few hundred years of study. Dingming nodded. Second, pilot the starship to the depths of the universe. Shuiyu Mountain said, that's even more impossible. Fujin Zhen also nodded. The universe was a vast and endless dark forest. No one dared to fly into the unknown depths of the universe alone. Dingming continued. The last path is to use the starship's powerful stealth ability to open a miniature wormhole and teleport the entire starship to the depths of one of the Federation's Linda planets to hide. Senior Fujin, is the recyclable energy on this starship enough to support it? Fujin Zhen lowered his head as if he was calculating. After a long time, he raised his head. No problem, and the energy is just enough. Dingming took a deep breath. I understand now. Where did all these strange things come from? Fujin Zhen said, please enlighten me, Brother Ding. Dingming said, after it dived underground, I'm guessing that it wouldn't dare act rashly. If it went to the surface openly, it might be discovered by the space station and the patrol fleet in the sky at any time. Fujin Zhen said, yes, it's strong enough, but not strong enough to fight against a fleet. Also, in the 7 years of battle, it destroyed all the corpses. It has no body to possess, so it can only exist in the form of a water droplet. Shuiyu Mountain said, you forgot one thing. One of our corpses must have been used by it. Dingming said, it's definitely not Senior Fujin's corpse. Fujin Zhen was shocked. Why? Dingming said with a heavy expression, there's a reason why it chose Senior Shui's body. The realm-devouring beast's body and strength are both much greater than a human's. It can use this to its advantage to excavate, dig. Fujin Zhen and Shuiyu Mountain were both confused. What is it trying to dig? Dingming said, it's probably digging a tunnel to the surface with its bare hands. Fujin Zhen was confused. Other than the expedition, the Frog's probe ship is also here. Why didn't it use the probe ship to dig? Ding Meng said in a low voice. It's an intelligent creature. It's impossible that it doesn't know the risks involved. Shuiyu Mountain understood. If it really used the probe ship, it would have been detected by the space station in the sky. Ding Meng said, it has another purpose. It used Elder Fusion's ability to pollute the ground along the way to block the detection signals of the patrol fleet. As everyone knows, the World Devourer has a strong ability to interfere with the Federation's quantum detection. Fusion Jun was shocked. Could it be that it has been digging for the past 20 years? Ding Meng nodded with a serious face. That's very likely. However, it didn't dig the tunnel directly to the surface. It kept it close to the surface. It knows that it can't be exposed to light. Once it's exposed to the surface, it will be very dangerous. Fusion Jun couldn't help but praise Ding Meng's thinking. It was indeed meticulous and reasonable. Ding Meng said, at this time, it used some unknown method to send a signal to the outside world. It successfully attracted an exploration team from Tianhang International to planet Immortal Weaver. As long as this group of people dared to come down, they were destined to be killed by it. Once it obtained the knowledge and memories of these people, it would have a better understanding of the Federation's current situation. Fusion Jun and Shuiyu Mountain didn't ask any more questions. They had already smelled an extremely dangerous signal from Ding Meng's reasoning. Ding Meng continued, once the tunnel completely connects to the surface, the death of the exploration team will inevitably attract the nearby search and rescue teams. At this time, it can use Senior Fang's infectious telekinesis. The infectious telekinesis can spread outwards layer by layer. The civilians and refugee camps on planet Immortal Weaver were the first to be infected. That's why there was a refugee riot a year ago. The riot was fake, but it was actually used. These people naturally burrowed into the ground after they lost their minds. They dug the tunnel with their bare hands. Batch after batch of people died, and another batch came in. Eventually, they dug the underground world into a maze. This is the cleverness of the creature. Even if someone discovered some clues, they wouldn't have imagined that there was such a terrifying alien hiding in the depths of planet Immortal Weaver. Shuiyu Mountain said, if a large number of people died, it could also absorb them and evolve. If I'm not wrong, the underground world of planet Immortal Weaver is already an environment similar to that of the Devouring World. Ding Meng's speculation was completely in line with what he had seen and heard along the way. Ding Meng explained, it still has a backup plan. To prevent the Masters from discovering that something is wrong, it must have learned part of Xinguang Technology's teleportation technology and built a teleportation hall underground. It can teleport to and from planet Immortal Weaver, planet Thorn, planet Phalai, and many other planets at any time, making it difficult for people to discover its whereabouts. Fusion Jun and Shuiyu Mountain were stunned. The two of them had always been conceited, but they didn't expect their opponent to be even more cunning and meticulous than they were. Chapter 359. Ding Meng continued his analysis. As the chaos escalated, the soldiers and leaders of Xinguang Corporation were also infected. At this time, an origin ability user should have come down, and its strength should have increased. Of course, at this time, it would be impossible for it not to be noticed by the outside world. This was what Du Peixing had explained to him. When the super fleet of the Skynet space station in the Azure system was on a routine patrol mission, the detection system suddenly detected an unknown signal in the Linda system. This signal was from that special organism. Because the underground world had completely turned into a devouring world, the quantum detection system could only determine its location through blind spots. However, the water droplet was obviously very cunning. It used the transmission array to go around many planets, and each planet had nearly 2,000 radiation zones. How could you possibly find it? Therefore, the Special Task Force and all the detectors sent by the military never returned. They were all killed by the water droplet. Masa Fusion was very surprised. He asked, why didn't the military send a powerful Lord-level fighter down? Ding Meng sighed. I guess the military still doesn't know much about the situation underground. They probably didn't think that it was an alien invasion, but the military has already speculated about the environment underground. If they send out a real expert, it will be like beating the grass to scare the snake. It will definitely hide. Shuiyu Mountain pondered and said, Ding Ming, you were sent here, so you should know the most about the situation on the way here. Think about it. How strong is this damn thing now? Has it broken through to become a Lord-level fighter? Ding Ming immediately thought of Quan Jinwei. Quan Jinwei was definitely infected, and the water droplet could even eat him and evolve. However, when Ding Ming fought with Quan Jinwei for the first time, he could still feel the human aura on Quan Jinwei. After Quan Jinwei was resurrected the second time, it was completely gone. Makoto Fuma said, I understand. It's not in a hurry. It wants to control more people, preferably origin ability users, to attract more and more people to come and die. Only then can it continue to grow. For it, this evolution process is definitely very slow, but sooner or later, it will evolve to an unprecedented level. At that time, I'm afraid that even our interstellar battleships in the sky won't be able to do anything to it. Shuiyu Mountain sighed. No wonder the Divine Light people said that it was a terrifying creature that had dominated the universe for billions of years. When that time comes, not only will it destroy the Federation, but the entire devouring world will also be its food. The three of them were horrified by the analysis, but Feng Jinjin was still somewhat unwilling. But what if all of this is not what Brother Ding speculated? Ding Ming sighed and said, whether it is or not, we will know once we open this mechanical door and go out. Feng Jinjin's tone became excited. I've waited for so many years. The energy of my artificial body is about to run out. I've waited for this day to come. He and Shuiyu Mountain were both artificial bodies made of crystalline energy. They had no way of dealing with such a heavy mechanical door. If Ding Ming had not been teleported in, the two of them would still have run out of energy, and in the end, their souls would have been completely destroyed. Seeing Ding Ming walk towards the rotating lock, Shuiyu Mountain decisively said, wait. Feng Jinjin laughed disdainfully. What? Old bastard. Even you have times when you're afraid? Shuiyu Mountain was a bit nervous. It's not fear. What if that damn thing is outside? If we rush out like this, won't we be throwing away all hope? We've both been here for 20 years. What's the difference in a little more time? Feng Jinjin stopped laughing. Then what do you mean? Shuiyu Mountain said, there's something I'm curious about. Even that damn thing can't get into Shengguang Biotechnology's energy storage. How did Brother Ding get in? And how did you get teleported here? Ding Ming smiled bitterly. Even I don't know the reason for this. Feng Jinjin was silent. He said, I did some research. To enter the storage, one has to remove the protection command from the mainframe system. Even the mainframe does not have the authority to do so. Shuiyu Mountain said, then who has the authority? Feng Jinjin said, I'm afraid only the life forms of the Shengguang civilization have the authority to do so. Ding Ming laughed. If only I were a person of Shengguang. Clearly, Ding Ming was a human life form. As for how he had been teleported in, that was indeed inconceivable. Ding Ming asked, I'm curious too. When you were killed 20 years ago, the droplet should have known that you had become spirits and was hiding here. Why didn't it come in and get rid of you? Feng Jinjin said, at that time, it was only in the form of a droplet. Although it was powerful, it couldn't do anything to solid machines. Ding Ming said, but so many years have passed, and it has swallowed so many people. It already has a body to attach itself to. It can't be that it can't do anything to the SS expedition, can it? Feng Jinjin and Shuiyu Mountain were smart people. They immediately realized that the droplet had not ignored them. It had left the SS expedition for another use. Shuiyu Mountain suddenly said, let's go out. Ding Ming said, oh. Shuiyu Mountain said, since the SS expedition is useful to it, then we won't activate it. Whatever it wants, I won't give it. His way of thinking was undoubtedly correct. It was also Ding Ming's way of thinking. Feng Jinjin sneered. You're not afraid? Shuiyu Mountain said proudly. Afraid? I'm already a dead man. I don't even have a corpse. Why would I be afraid of death? All right, you've got guts. Feng Jianjin's heroic spirit was also aroused. Brother Ding, please open the door. Ding Ming did not say anything. He took 2 steps forward and began to turn the lock plate with both hands. After a series of heavy creaking sounds, the heavy iron door was opened. What appeared in front of them was still the damp, dark, and poisonous environment. But looking at the huge, rectangular hall in front of them, Feng Jianjin was silent. Ding Ming turned his head and said, "Senior, do you know where this is?" Feng Jianjin pointed into the distance and said, "Do you see that thing?" Ding Ming noticed that in the far wall of the hall, there seemed to be a hemispherical steel object embedded in it. It was very similar to the Haitian group's exploration ship. Its design followed the Songqing spaceship's design, but it looked too old. After years of erosion, it looked like an apple with a moldy surface. Feng Jianjin said, "That's right. It's the Frogman Kingdom's Frog exploration ship. The Empire's Songqing spaceship evolved from it." Ding Ming was shocked. "You're saying that we're inside the Divine Light Starship?" Shuiyu Mountain's tone was also very serious. Yes, this was originally a world of light. Now, all the light is gone, and it has become the environment of our devouring world. This proves that the darn thing has absorbed all the energy it can absorb. In a way, the Divine Light Starship has been destroyed, but the warehouse is probably still there. Ding Ming said, "Seniors, may I ask where the warehouse is now?" Feng Jianjin said, "I can only bring you there based on my memory." Ding Ming said, "Senior, please lead the way." The mobility of the crystalline energy prosthetic body was extremely limited. It was about the same as in normal humans, so they had to walk around for almost 6 hours. Along the way, they passed by those rectangular halls. This showed just how huge the Divine Light Starship was. Shuiyu Mountain said, "No, your understanding is wrong. Under normal circumstances, the Divine Light Starship can change its form at any time. It can expand itself into a stellar-level battleship or shrink itself into a small spacecraft. This kind of technology is unimaginable to us, but now that this place has become a dead zone, it proves that the mysterious energy that the little thing mentioned has been completely absorbed. It looks like it's preparing to settle down in the Holy Grail Federation." Ding Ming listened with a heavy heart. This strange creature was really terrifying. At this moment, Ding Ming suddenly stopped in his tracks and frowned. Feng Jianjin was puzzled. "What's going on?" Ding Ming said, "There's someone up ahead." Feng Jianjin said, "But the warehouse is up ahead." Ding Ming said, "Are you sure?" Feng Jianjin said, "I can guarantee it. At least Old Trash and I are more familiar with that thing than anyone else. We've studied it in the warehouse many times before." Ding Ming suddenly smiled bitterly. The warehouse that Feng Jianjin was talking about was actually the hall with the 16 ghost eyes demon pupil teleportation portals. After going around in circles for so long, they had actually come back to the same place. There was indeed someone in the teleportation portal hall. Ding Ming quickly ran over. "What are you guys doing?" In the southern corner of the hall, Du Mo and Irene were curled up in a corner. They looked quite injured, and Fu Zhonghui was taking care of them. When they saw Ding Ming appear, Du Mo and Irene were pleasantly surprised. "Ding Ming, you're here. What's going on?" Ding Ming asked with concern. Fu Zhonghui's voice actually sounded a little tired. "Guping from Haitian Group was here just now. Both Du Mo and Lin are seriously injured, but I've already forced that guy to retreat." Feng Jianjin, however, became excited. "The warehouse. This is indeed the warehouse. These 16 teleportation portals are the entrance. The protection order hasn't been lifted. Thank goodness it's still there." 2 crystal energy artificial bodies appeared here. Fu Zhonghui frowned and said, "Who are these 2 spirits?" Ding Ming had no choice but to explain. Du Mo and Irene's eyes immediately lit up. "Is it really Senior Feng Jianjin?" Feng Jianjin, however, couldn't be bothered with them. He explained to Ding Ming, "The destination of teleportation is not necessarily the warehouse. It can be anywhere in the starship. We've tried many times, but we haven't succeeded even once. Brother Ding, the teleportation plaza you were in earlier was a place we've never been to before. That place can help you recover quickly. I can guarantee that it's definitely the real warehouse. Ding Ming stepped forward and said, if that's the case, I'll teleport again. Shuyu Mountain hurriedly pulled him back. Please don't. The teleportation is random. There's only a chance of success once in tens of thousands of times. If you teleport again now, you'll be in trouble if you encounter that thing. Fu Zhonghui also pulled him back and asked in a low voice, Ding Ming, this underground is too strange. What's going on? Chapter 360. Ding Ming had no choice but to explain to Fu Zhonghui and the other two about the strange life forms. Fu Zhonghui was still relatively normal, but Du Mo and Irene were already dumbfounded. This kind of strange story that they had only heard from their instructors in Starlight class had actually appeared in reality. Fu Zhonghui muttered, I've heard old Master Lang mention this Shunguang civilization before. Fujin Jin hesitated. Is it old Master Lang Dun? Fu Zhonghui nodded. Lang Dun was a famous figure who had spent his entire life in various fields of research. As Long Dun's personal bodyguard, Fu Zhonghui had obviously been influenced by him for a long time. His knowledge was definitely more extensive than Ding Ming's. Sure enough, Fu Zhonghui said in a deep voice, the old man once said that the energy absorbed by the Federation's origin ability users isn't the purest. The Federation's location is very remote in the universe, and the star field's origin ability energy here is very thin. Those origin ability users who can refine origin ability energy all have to rely on various secret techniques and treasures. Ding Ming had the most right to speak on this point. His telekinesis, vision, and the diamond star fusing art were clear evidence. Fu Zhonghui continued, you all know that there are energy bodies more powerful than origin energy, and that is the inverse crystal. The inverse crystal is formed in a long period of time and in a unique environment in the universe. Based on this theory, there are definitely energy bodies more powerful than the inverse crystal in the universe. This crystal energy is one of them. Fujin Jun was shocked. Could this be the Xinguang civilization? Fu Zhonghui said, you're not wrong to understand it that way. Because the more energy there is in the universe, the more powerful the civilizations are. They fight over resources. The Xinguang starship you're talking about is very likely a result of a battle in such a star field. And the Crystal Plaza that Ding Ming mentioned and the warehouse that Fujin Jun described are definitely the result of this starship risking its life to snatch a ship's worth of resources before escaping. His deduction was undoubtedly closer to the truth. Fujin Jun hesitated again. Senior, what do you mean? Fu Zhonghui nodded with a heavy expression. That's right. These resources in this starship don't belong to the divine Splendor civilization at all. In addition to this strange creature you mentioned, their arrival isn't an opportunity for divine splendor, Planet Norton, the Frogman Kingdom, and the Devouring World. It's a disaster that could destroy our galaxy. His view was the most accurate and correct. Makoto Fuma asked, then what should we do now? Fu Zhonghui said in a low voice, the signal down here has been completely blocked. My suggestion is to immediately return to the remote ship and activate the remote ship and the Ice Frog spaceship. Then, push toward the surface. Once there is a signal, immediately contact Pei Xing and inform everyone on planet Thorn to evacuate immediately. Also, request the patrol fleet to use their weapons to level this place. No matter what strange creature it will not be able to survive the firepower of the fleet. Understood. Fujin Jun nodded seriously. Senior is right. We will go now, but I need 2 people who can control the ship. Du Mo and Irene raised their hands at the same time. We can do it. Fujin Jun turned his head and asked, Old bastard, what about you? Shuyu Mountain sighed. I will go activate the Ice Frog spaceship. I want to see that damn thing destroyed with my own eyes. Fu Zhonghui said, Elder, don't worry. After we successfully break out, I will explain everything to the higher-ups and arrange for you to return to the Devourer sector. Who knows? Maybe you will be reborn. Shuyu Mountain said, Thank you. If I can really return to the Devourer sector, I will definitely report the situation to the Queen and suggest that we retreat half of the Devourer sector's base in Zyrtl. That would be for the best. Fu Zhonghui nodded. Fu Jinjin said, "Then, let us begin." He paused halfway through his sentence because Ding Ming and Fu Zhonghui both turned to look at the exit in the distance at the same time. Judging from their movements, it was obvious that someone had arrived at the entrance again. At this moment, Ding Ming's face became extremely cold. At the same time, his heart sank. It was not just one group of people who came, but 3 groups of people. A man and a woman walked out from the left entrance. These 2 people weren't tall, and their figures were relatively short. Their looks were even more ordinary. They were the type that wouldn't stand out if thrown into a crowd. However, these 2 people actually didn't have any energy fluctuations on their bodies. Ding Ming wasn't stupid enough to think that these 2 were ordinary humans. Ordinary people couldn't possibly come to this place. Then, there was only one possibility. These 2 people's cultivation probably far surpassed that of ordinary origin ability users. There was a group of people behind this man and woman. He had seen 2 of them before. They were Sha Shige and Qingyan. These people were actually from the Sheng Hao Corporation. As soon as she saw Ding Ming, Qingyan immediately went up to them and whispered something. These 2 people continuously nodded, looking at Ding Ming with thoughtful expressions. A group of people also came out from the right entrance. The leader was a tall and handsome young man, but the aura on his body was so exaggerated that even Ding Ming was shocked. This person was about 40 years old, but judging from the energy fluctuations on his body, this person was actually a combat master. Even Fu Zhonghui could not help but frown. Even the old man thinks highly of Kuan Ping from the Tianheng Corporation. He is young and promising. Behind Kuan Ping was the group of people from the Night Owls. It was obvious that these people had been invited by the Tianheng Corporation. The Tianheng Corporation was the first to discover the water droplet signal, so they definitely would not give up so easily. However, at the opposite entrance, a hale and hearty white-haired old man slowly walked in. He had an imposing appearance, and his eyes were full of spirit. He was actually wearing an expensive tailored suit, and his shiny leather shoes were spotless. Little Rascal's voice also turned cold. "It's Chu Ming Liang." I browsed through his information in the database. Behind Chu Ming Liang was naturally Gu Ping, and Gu Ping was surrounded by a large group of fully armed soldiers. These soldiers were escorting a few people who were tied up. When he saw these people, Ding Ming's expression was strangely cold. This was because this group of people was Meng Yin, Zhong Ting, Zhan Shijuan, Yufu. Apart from Meng Yin, they were all ordinary people from the sanctuary. Furthermore, blood was constantly seeping out of the corner of Meng Yan's mouth, and her aura was gradually weakening. She had most likely been severely injured. Zhong Ting and the others were also covered in wounds. They had probably been tortured quite a bit. This was the situation that Ding Ming did not want to see the most. Haitian Group had clearly researched all of his information thoroughly, and they had done their homework beforehand. Chu Ming Liang might not be able to threaten Ding Ming with force, but he could use these people to threaten Ding Ming. This was because he knew that for Ding Ming, these people were absolutely not allowed to die, and these people were also the most likely to die. Gu Ping suddenly said, "Xing Ming, Xiao Mei, you 2 also want to join the fun?" Xing Ming and Xiao Mei were the male and female leaders of the Sheng Hao group. Xing Ming looked at Chu Ming Liang and couldn't help but smile. "I'm really lucky. I didn't expect that this place would attract such a big figure like Mr. Chu. This trip is really lively." Chu Ming Liang smiled slightly. "The Sheng Hao group has never missed a banquet for the rich. I didn't expect the 2 of you to come." Xing Ming seemed to be a little afraid of Chu Ming Liang. "Mr. Chu, do you have something to teach us?" Chu Ming Liang was still smiling. "I don't dare to teach you anything. This time, I came here to settle some personal grudges." His gaze fell on Ding Ming. The other 2 families immediately understood that Chu Ming Liang wanted to deal with this young man in front of them. Since it was a personal grudge, it was best for everyone to wait and see. Chu Ming Liang smiled at Ding Ming. "I was thinking that I don't need to personally invite you here, right?" Ding Ming was silent. He decisively took a step forward. Fu Zhonghui immediately pulled him back and whispered, "Don't go. You're definitely not his opponent." Ding Ming slightly waved his hand to stop Fu Zhonghui. How could he not understand this logic? Chu Ming Liang had lived for more than 200 years. No matter how mediocre an origin ability user he was, at his current level, he wouldn't be lower than a warlord. Moreover, according to the information in Little Rascal's database, the last time Chu Ming Liang personally took action was 65 years ago. At that time, he was already a high-level warlord. This was the most frightening point. For someone who hadn't taken action for half a century, the outside world could no longer estimate his strength. After all, there weren't many people who were worthy of him personally taking action. "Be careful, Ding Ming." Even Little Rascal's voice was trembling. She was very clear about Ding Ming's situation. Without the prototype, Ding Ming could barely hold his own against a warlord-level origin ability user. If Chu Ming Liang was really a warlord, then Ding Ming wouldn't even have the strength to resist. "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing," Ding Ming quietly replied. Under the complicated gazes of the crowd, Ding Ming slowly walked to the open space at the northern entrance. He was less than 10 meters away from Chu Ming Liang. Chu Ming Liang's eyes revealed a trace of admiration. "Not bad. You're still quite brave. Feng Jiahua's death wasn't unjust." Damn, Ding Ming's heart sank. Chu Ming Liang actually found out about this so quickly. Chu Ming Liang seemed to know what he was thinking. He smiled and said, "Lan Bing isn't bad either. She must have put in some effort to kill Feng Jiahua." Ding Ming's heart sank even more. This big shot's eyes were really sharp. He was actually able to see through Lan Bing's trap. However, Meng Yin was captured, and Lan Bing wasn't here. Could it be that Chu Ming Liang had already dealt with Lan Bing? Ding Ming glanced at Meng Yin from the corner of his eyes. Meng Yin, who was being pressed to the ground, only had a pleading look in her eyes. Her meaning was, "Don't worry about me. Just run away quickly." Ding Ming couldn't possibly run away. The scene of Little Four's tragic death in the warship's passageway appeared in his mind. This incident had always bothered him, and he was determined not to let the same thing happen again. He could die, but he couldn't let Little Four's family die with him. Otherwise, even if he died, his heart would never be at peace. Looking at the confident Chu Ming Liang, Ding Ming said expressionlessly, "Let them go. If you have any conditions, just state them." Chu Ming Liang raised his hand slightly, and the group of soldiers quickly removed the chains on Meng Yin and the others. Gu Ping said coldly, "You can leave now." Seeing Nightmare supporting Zhong Ting and the others as they walked towards Du Mo and the others, it was Ding Ming's turn to be stunned. This Chu Ming Liang really let them go just like that. This straightforward attitude made Ding Ming feel that the situation was not good. Chapter 361. Chu Ming Liang waited until Meng Yin and the others reached Du Mo's side before he waved at Ding Ming, indicating for him to come over. Ding Ming didn't refuse because he knew that he couldn't refuse, let alone Chu Ming Liang. He couldn't even deal with Gu Ping. It was only when Ding Ming approached that Chu Ming Liang opened his mouth. His tone was very respectful. "It's an honor to finally meet you." Ding Ming frowned. "How did you know?" Chu Ming Liang sighed slightly. "It's very simple. She's gone. She shouldn't have disappeared at this time." She was naturally referring to Lan Bing. Ding Ming suddenly realized that almost everyone on the Haitian group's exploration ship had died, except for Lan Bing. On the surface, it looked like Meng Yin had taken her away. But in fact, if one thought about it a little, it was impossible for Meng Yin to be a threat to Lan Bing. So how could she have taken her hostage? Therefore, with Chu Ming Liang's experience, he judged that this was all an illusion. Chu Yifeng must have died at Lan Bing's hands. Ding Ming said, "You seem to be very sorry?" Chu Ming Liang sighed. "Indeed, she's a talent. If she had been honed, she would have been able to stand alone in the future. I also intended to train her, but unfortunately, she was too stubborn. Things still ended up like this." Although he was sorry, Ding Ming felt a chill. Chu Yifeng was Chu Ming Liang's grandson. No matter what, he was still Chu Ming Liang's relative. But Chu Ming Liang actually felt sorry for Lan Bing when Chu Yifeng was killed by Lan Bing. This proved that Chu Yifeng's position in Chu Ming Liang's heart was lower than Lan Bing's, an outsider. Of course, Ding Ming didn't think that Chu Ming Liang was also obsessed with Lan Bing. For someone who had lived as long as Chu Ming Liang, he probably saw things more clearly than anyone else. However, Ding Ming couldn't help but ask, "Is Chu Yifeng your relative?" Chu Ming Liang asked calmly, "So what?" Ding Ming took a deep breath. "Are you going to let him die like this?" Chu Ming Liang couldn't help but laugh. When he laughed, it was far more terrifying than when he didn't laugh. "What? Are you speaking up for him?" "A little." Ding Ming's tone had a hint of helplessness. He had seen everything that had happened in the operating room. Perhaps Jiahua was right. Was it wrong to like someone? Perhaps he and Chu Yifeng weren't wrong. What was wrong was that they fell in love with the wrong person. Although Ding Ming and Chu Yifeng were enemies, Ding Ming always felt that his opponent should not have died so miserably, so lowly, without any dignity to speak of. Chu Ming Liang seemed to be able to read his mind. "A Feng is actually not bad. It's just that misfortune often accumulates in the blink of an eye. Wisdom and courage are often trapped in drowning. Just like you, no one really valued you from the beginning. But now you can stand in front of me and talk to me as an equal." Ding Ming suddenly felt an unprecedented pressure. In the past, his enemies were mostly strong, but Chu Ming Liang was not only unfathomable, but he also had another kind of strength, and that was his thoughts. His thoughts were sharp and penetrating. This was also a weapon, more terrifying than many other weapons. Ding Ming was silent for a moment before saying, "I'm afraid you won't be able to get what you want." Chu Ming Liang looked at him with interest. "Then what do you think I want? Is it a mutated virus? And after I get it, my strength will increase by leaps and bounds like you?" Ding Ming was stunned. "Are you saying that you don't want it?" Chu Ming Liang said, "If I really wanted it, you would have died 2 years ago." Ding Ming could only admit, "That's true." Chu Ming Liang suddenly pointed at the teleportation arrays on the walls of the hall. He circulated a bit of origin energy and said, "Do you know what those eyes are?" His voice was loud enough for everyone present to hear. Sheng Hao and the other 2 families from Tianheng immediately quieted down. The teleportation arrays were the goal of their trip. Ding Ming sneered disdainfully. "Do you know?" Chu Ming Liang smiled. "Not only do I know, but I was the first to know. That is the legendary divine light technology." Everyone was in an uproar, especially Qing Yin from Sheng Hao and Night Owl from Tianheng. They were already approaching the teleportation arrays with detection devices. Chu Ming Liang then looked at Du Mo and the others. "Those 2 artificial bodies, which are the spirit bodies attached to them, is Feng Jianzhen." When he asked this question, Ding Ming and the others were truly shocked. "How did you know?" Chu Ming Liang smiled. "Why don't you think about it? Outer space is so vast. How could Feng Jianzhen have so coincidentally discovered the Divine Light Starship all those years ago?" Ding Ming was so shocked that he couldn't speak. Feng Jianzhen's voice was filled with disbelief. "So you were the one who sent the mysterious message all those years ago?" Chu Ming Liang ignored him. Instead, he calmly looked at Ding Ming. "It seems that you don't know anything about this. I've overestimated you." Ding Ming was also very calm. He slowly opened his mouth and said, "When I was at Black Gold Base, I heard that the surprise attack army had been digging in that damn place for more than 10 years. If I'm not wrong, it should have been 20 years, right?" Chu Ming Liang said, "Oh." Ding Ming said expressionlessly, "Because in terms of time, that was the time that Feng Jianjin died. It was also the time that the Divine Light Starship disappeared without a trace." Chu Ming Liang said, "Continue." Ding Ming said, "The Divine Light Starship didn't appear in the vicinity of our star cluster for no reason. You might have figured out the situation on the starship before Feng Jianzhen and the others. You must have calculated that Feng Jianzhen and the others weren't a match for the mysterious creature. If Feng Jianzhen and the others weren't a match for the mysterious creature, then you definitely weren't a match either." Chu Ming Liang didn't answer him. Instead, his expression darkened. Ding Ming continued, "But you must have found some valuable clues. That's why you started all the operations on the dead silent planet 20 years ago. You wanted to be one step ahead of the Divine Light Starship and obtain that valuable item. This time, even little rascal was shocked. Holy shit, even I thought that Lan Bing was very powerful. But compared to this old man, Lan Bing's tricks are like child's play. Ding Ming said, but there's one thing I don't understand. How did you know so precisely that the mysterious creature would appear 20 years later? Chu Ming Liang stared at him. Then he suddenly smiled. I realize that you didn't live to this day by luck. You didn't get the virus by chance either. Or rather, you should be the successor of the virus. In the end, I still miscalculated some things. I shouldn't have let Feng go to the dead silent star. Ding Ming frowned. You want to go there yourself? Chu Ming Liang smiled. You'll never be able to guess what I'm thinking. Ding Ming said, oh. Chu Ming Liang put away his smile and said seriously, I've changed my mind. I've decided to give you a path to take. Ding Ming said, what do you want me to do? Chu Ming Liang said, Feng is dead, and Lan Bing has escaped. I want you to inherit Feng's position and become the third-generation successor of the Chu family. In other words, you'll be the leader of the Haitian group. These words were too shocking. It was so shocking that no one had thought of this before. What was Chu Ming Liang planning? Ding Ming took a deep breath. And if I choose not to? Chu Ming Liang said lightly. Do you have the right to choose now? Ding Ming said, don't I? Chu Ming Liang said proudly. If you think I'm forcing you, you're wrong. It's because I know people like you that I can trust you with the position. Ding Ming asked curiously, why are you doing this? Chu Ming Liang looked at Fu Zhonghui's group in the distance. You don't need to ask why. If you want them to have as much time as possible to recover, it's best if you stand aside and don't interfere. I guarantee that you and your people will be fine. Ding Ming didn't say anything else. He immediately stood aside and didn't move. He knew very well that Chu Ming Liang wouldn't go back on his words. It was because his group was no threat to him. It was only when Ding Ming obeyed that Chu Ming Liang said, everyone, I've dealt with my personal grievances. I suggest that everyone disperse. Disperse? Shenghao Corporation's Xingming suddenly sneered. Mr. Chu, you have a strong sense of humor. You've already come all the way here, and you're telling everyone to disperse. Tianheng Corporation's Kuan Ping also snorted disdainfully. Mr. Chu, you're looking down on Tianheng too much. Chu Ming Liang smiled. You're wrong again. Tianheng Corporation is famous. My little Haitian group is insignificant compared to it. Kuan Ping's face was full of contempt. It's good that you know your place. Chu Ming Liang smiled. You should be talking about yourself. Without Tianheng, you're just a bug. Kuan Ping's face changed. What did you say? Chu Ming Liang smiled. I'm telling the truth. Chu Ming Liang, you old dog, you're too much of a bully. Others may be afraid of you, but I, Kuan Ping, am not. After he finished speaking, he flew up from the side of the crater. Chu Ming Liang's expression didn't change at all. His gaze was fixed on the crater. Just as Kuan Ping flew out, a golden figure shot up from the bottom of the crater and stopped him in midair. Clang! A crisp sound was heard. It sounded like two sharp weapons clashing against each other. Upon closer inspection, Kuan Ping returned to his original position with a dagger in his hand. On the other side of the crater, Quan Jinwei, who was wearing the golden source shield armor, appeared once again. His demonic eyes were as red as a devil's. Even the light from the teleportation portal was overshadowed. Kuan Ping suddenly laughed coldly. I was wondering who it was. So it's Commander Quan. Is the rebel army here to steal the energy source too? Quan Jinwei laughed sinisterly. So it's Kuan Ping. It's been a long time. Are you also interested in our Dawn army? Kuan Ping spat out a mouthful of saliva. Huh. A bunch of trash dares to call themselves an army? You're living in a dream. Quan Jinwei didn't get angry. Instead, he laughed and said, if you join us, you'll obtain unparalleled power. Little rascal said, that's not right. This Quan Jinwei has become stronger again. In fact, he's become several levels stronger. Xiao AI's voice was also very serious. Act 5570, when you fought with him, his origin energy was close to 60 million points. When he fought with Goping, his origin energy was at 70 million points. Now, his origin energy has surpassed 100 million points. 100 million points was the standard for a beginner battle monarch. Ding Ming was confident in his own explosive power, but compared to Quan Jinwei, it was nothing. Ding Ming couldn't help but ask, is he deliberately hiding his strength? Or did he become so strong in such a short time? Chapter 362. Xiao AI could no longer answer Ding Ming. Quan Jinwei and Kuan Ping, who were in midair, had already started fighting. This level of battle could not be seen with the naked eye. Those who were weaker could only feel the air constantly shaking. Bursts of strong light flashed in midair, and the sound of weapons clashing was as dense as firecrackers. The entire hall was shaking, and it felt as if the ground was shaking, as if it would collapse at any time. After a few minutes of fighting, everyone could see that Kuan Ping was obviously not Quan Jinwei's opponent. Quan Jinwei did not seem to be afraid of ordinary weapons at all. When Kuan Ping stabbed him with his sword, he did not care at all, allowing the sword shield, armor to shatter and fall off piece by piece. However, when Quan Jinwei hit Kuan Ping with his fist, it was not something Kuan Ping could withstand. One could see that the golden tough-type origin energy continued to spread throughout Kuan Ping's body, gradually spreading to his entire body. Brother Kuan, let me help you. Xingming and Zheng Mei also flew over from afar. Xingming also used the tough-type origin energy. After joining the battle, Kuan Ping was obviously much more relaxed. Zheng Mei, on the other hand, was an ice-type origin energy. She always ensured that the surroundings of the crater were surrounded by iceberg-like dark ice force, trapping Quan Jinwei within. These warlord-level experts were not fools. They could sense that Quan Jinwei was not human and was not ordinary. Therefore, they attacked with all their might, determined to take Quan Jinwei's life. The remaining two groups of white gloves walked to the nearby teleportation array with instruments, seemingly studying the energy fluctuations. Chu Mingyang and the others did not move. They just watched indifferently as Xing Ming and the other three besieged Quan Jinwei. Ding Ming, on the other hand, looked at Fujin Zhen from afar. Fujin Zhen understood and led Du Mo and Meng Yin's group back the way they came. The most important thing now was to quickly return to the expedition, drive the two spaceships to the surface, and quickly ask for help from military. Sheng Hao, Tian Hang, Hai Tian, and the others might not know how terrifying the strange creatures in the underground world were, but Fujin Zhen and the others definitely knew the consequences. However, Zhong Ting, Zhan Qijuan, and the others were ordinary people. They still needed Du Mo, Aaron, and the others to use their origin energy to disperse the toxins around them. In addition, Feng Jianzhen and Shuiyu Mountain's artificial bodies were also present. After turning for a while and entering the hall of the MV expedition, Fumamasa, who was at the front of the group, suddenly stopped. The MV expedition's cabin door had been closed without them noticing. Two strangers were standing in front of the landing gear, staring at them with hostility. Although Feng Jianzhen was no longer an origin ability user, his experience was quite rich. With just a glance, he could tell that this wasn't an ally. Meng Yin had already taken the initiative to step forward. She had already flashed her bone spur. Fujin Zhen did not recognize these people, but she did. These two people were naturally from the Haitian group, Chu Lei and Fels. It looked like the Haitian group had mobilized all their forces this time. They were determined to obtain the Divine Light Starship. Fayer said with a calm face. Mr. Chu said that no one can touch these two spaceships. Duomo now knew the whole story. He couldn't help but grit his teeth and say, "It's impossible for you to hide this from the outside world." Chu Lei was expressionless. Ignorant. Once these two spaceships are activated, the consequences will be the most severe. Meng Yin laughed coldly. I already knew that Chu Ming Liang wouldn't let us go so easily. So you've been waiting here for a long time. Fayer said coldly, young Master Feng died because of you. It's not right if you don't pay with your lives. As soon as he finished speaking, a black shadow shot forward like an arrow. This was the prototype battle armor. Before Irene arrived, she had already raised her palms. The steel plate in her palms cracked open, and energy balls emerged. 2 sky-blue energy beams shot out. She had underestimated Chu Ming Liang's entourage. This Feyers had been active in outer space for many years and had rich combat experience. As soon as Irene moved, he advanced instead of retreating. With a flip of his body, he flew over Irene's head. He fiercely slammed his palm down, and a surge of heat energy pressed down like a landslide. His goal was very insidious. He didn't want to fight with the few of them who had strong combat abilities. He directly attacked the ordinary people and the 2 spirits behind them. Although Du Mo didn't know Zhong Ting and the others, he instinctively jumped up and took the initiative to receive the attack. He was an origin ability user, and the mission of an origin ability user was to protect these weak people who couldn't fight. Shameless, Du Mo roared. His body stretched out in the air, and his body fiercely shook forward. Origin ability condensed and poured out. To be honest, a lightspeed user couldn't be so reckless. Moreover, he had been injured quite badly before. When the 2 huge waves of energy collided, the center of the hall exploded with a bang. A large hole was blasted in the ground, and countless stones and sand flew into the air. In the smoke, Meng Yan also flew up and attacked Feyers. She didn't want to kill him in one blow. As long as she could delay for as long as possible and wait for Ding Meng to arrive, that would be enough. Unfortunately, she was wrong this time. Just as she flew into the smoke, Chu Lei, who was behind Feyers, casually waved his hand. A formless ice-blue energy floated out, and like a war hammer, it hit Meng Yan's chest. Pooh! Meng Yan spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward. She crashed into the wall and fell down. Then, the ice energy froze her into an ice sculpture. Chu Lei waved his hand again. This time, he forcefully pushed his palm forward. The entire ground was rolled up, and countless stones and sand formed a wave that swept everyone into it. They were all swept up against the wall and fell down. Even Du Mo and Aaron were not spared. The 8 of them were instantly turned into ice cubes. Fuma Zhen and Shui Mountain were artificial bodies, so it didn't matter if they were frozen or not. However, one of them was a combat master, and the other was an elder. They had never suffered such a big loss in their lives, and they immediately cursed. Looking at the ice on the floor, Feyers nodded and said, "It's best to deal with this once and for all." Chu Lei said with a calm face, "I'll leave this to you. I'll go meet up with Mr. Chu." "Don't worry." Feyers rubbed his hands and slowly walked forward. "You don't need to do anything to deal with this trash." "Is that so?" A cold voice rang out without any warning. This voice was actually somewhat familiar. Raising his head to look, he saw that the surface of the frozen ice sculpture on the ground had suddenly produced a misty blue light. The blue light was like a healing energy, and after a moment of flickering, all the ice was completely melted. This was actually the use of a more profound ice-type origin ability to remove the bindings of these people. Chu Lei was a high-level war elder. If his ice-type origin energy could be removed by someone else, then the person who came was at least at this level. Raising his hand again, Chu Lei couldn't help but laugh. "I was worried that I wouldn't be able to find you. You actually took the initiative to come back and die." At the entrance of the cave, Lan Bing appeared in front of everyone in a white-collared suit. Her expression was still very cold, but this time it was especially cold. Her beautiful eyes stared at Chu Lei, and the killing intent in her eyes was like a blade. Meng Yan came back to her senses. Why did you come back?" Lan Bing said coldly. "I had to come back." Meng Yan was stunned. "Why?" Lan Bing smiled coldly. "Because I know them too well. They won't let you go." At this time, Zhong Ting and Zhan Qijun on the ground had already woken up. Zhong Ting supported Yu Fu in a panic and shook him with all her might. "Uncle Fu, Uncle Fu, Uncle Fu." Yu Fu's face was as white as a sheet of paper. There was no normal color at all. An ordinary old man with one foot in the grave. How could he withstand the fierce attack of an Ice-type Origin Energy user's Dark Ice Force? In the wave just now, all the blood in Yufu's body had been completely frozen. His heart had suddenly stopped beating, and his brain had completely died. He didn't even have time to scream before he died. Zhong Ting's tears fell. This loyal servant of the Zhong family for many years had died so tragically in this dark underground. She couldn't accept this fact for a while. Du Mo and Meng Yan's eyes immediately shot out flames of anger. This was an ordinary person. You really killed him just like that? You didn't treat him as a human at all? Lan Bing said indifferently. In order to achieve their goal, they will do anything. Chu Lei snorted coldly. It's good that you understand. The next one will be you. Lan Bing took 2 steps forward and said in a low voice, listening to your tone, you seem to be very confident. Chu Lei sneered. Before, you were Mr. Chu's subordinate, so I naturally had to listen to your orders. Unfortunately, you are no longer. Lan Bing said, so you think it's easy to deal with me? Chu Lei said proudly, I don't need to be humble in front of you. Do you really think your ice-type cultivation is higher than mine? In the past, other than your status being higher than mine, what other aspects do you have that can be used? Lan Bing said, I have a secret that you might not know. Chu Lei smiled. Do you really think that after staying in Mr. Chu's private training room for a while, you can really fight against a high-level war sovereign? Lan Bing smiled lightly. This secret of mine can't be revealed to others, because the people who see it. Her tone suddenly changed, and her expression became venomous. You have to die. Before the word die could be completely said, Chu Lei suddenly found himself flying inexplicably. His body was especially light. He wanted to say something, but he found that no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't open his mouth. 2 seconds later, his vision was crooked because he saw himself. His body was still standing in the same place, but he didn't have a head. His head seemed to be falling to the ground. In the eyes of Meng Yin and the others, they also couldn't see Lan Bing's movements clearly. The only person who could see it clearly was Fayers. Fayers finally understood what Lan Bing's secret was. It turned out that this Lan Bing was actually an ice-type, biochemical type, and light-type expert. Lan Bing's flash just now was so fast that it was inhuman. In a flash, she appeared behind Chu Lei. He didn't know what method she used to make Chu Lei's head move instantly. This was the scariest part. He could see the speed, but he couldn't see the method. This was the scariest part. He could see the speed, but he couldn't see the method. This was the scariest part. Lan Bing had stayed in Haitian Group for many years. It could be said that Haitian Group had nurtured her, but no one realized that Lan Bing was actually a lightspeed expert. She must have secretly trained. Even Chu Ming Liang didn't realize. This Lan Bing really hit it well. Thinking of this, Fayers felt a chill run down his spine. Without another word, he turned around and ran towards the entrance of the tunnel. Chapter 363. Lan Bing turned her head, and the resentment in her eyes grew even stronger. You still want to run? She waved her hand, and the entrance was immediately blocked by a blue ice wall. Along with her gesture, there seemed to be an extremely fine line that flew out. This line flew halfway and turned into a big shining net with a whoosh sound. It was as dense and neat as a laser cutting net. All directions of Fayers were sealed. He looked at the net of light behind him in horror and screamed in despair. Oh no! Kacha, kacha, kacha. The sound of flesh being torn apart rang out. Even Meng Yin, who was numb to killing, could not bear to watch any longer. The net of light passed through Fayers' body, and a living person was instantly cut into dozens of square pieces of flesh, scattering all over the ground. Lan Bing grabbed at the air, and the net of light disappeared. The string seemed to have been retracted as well. She said expressionlessly, You two are still far from being ruthless. Shui Yushan sighed and said, Is this your human's calamity water heavenly punishment? Fujin Zhen also sighed in amazement. I really want to say no, but I really can't imagine what other form the calamity water heavenly punishment could take apart from this. While the two of them were sighing, Lan Bing had already extended her hand towards Meng Yan. Her gaze had become much gentler. Let's go. My spaceship is waiting for you outside. I've already located this place. Meng Yan shook her head and said, your ship is too far away. Music image transmission won't be able to transport so many people. Besides, Mr. Ting is still in Chu Mingliang's hands. Why do you care about these people? Lan Bing frowned. I'm only taking you away. The others have nothing to do with me. Du Mo suddenly said, Sister Yin, go with her first. Meng Yin was stunned. What about you? Where's Miss AI? Du Mo glanced at Zhong Ting and Zhang Qijuan, who were kneeling on ground. His gaze was exceptionally firm. I won't leave. As an origin ability user, I, Du Mo, will never abandon a weakling. Lan Bing sneered disdainfully. Do you think you're so great? You can't even protect yourself, yet you still want to care about others. How foolish. Du Mo's expression was stern. I don't care if I'm smart or stupid. I'd rather die than abandon my friends and run away. Even if I die, I'll die honorably. I won't drag out an ignoble existence. I won't leave until Ding Ming joins us. Lan Bing was stunned. Are you really not afraid of death? Du Mo simply shut his mouth. He didn't like to reason with women. Fujin Zhen was also infected by his arrogance. Good lad. You really have character. Don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and get on the ship. Only by contacting the military will we have a chance to break out. Miss, my ship also has a music video transmission system. It's very powerful. If it's not convenient for you, I'll send you away first. Lan Bing's gaze landed on Meng Yan. Meng Yan nodded slightly. Lan Bing coldly said, let's go. Get on the ship. By the time Du Mo's group boarded the ship, the battle in the teleportation formation hall had already reached its climax. Quan Jinwei was constantly being pushed back by the combined attacks of 2 generals and 1 combat master. Kuan Ping's short sword, in particular, was able to repeatedly penetrate Quan Jinwei's origin substance protection with the help of Xing Ming and Zheng Mei's cover. In the end, the 3 of them beat up Quan Jinwei until he collapsed on the ground. Quan Jinwei lay on the stone floor. The light in his demonic eyes gradually dimmed, and his aura gradually weakened. It was obvious that his origin energy was about to dissipate. Kuan Ping disdainfully said, a small, insignificant commander dares to meddle in these muddy waters. You're wrong. Chu Mingliang finally moved. He clasped his hands behind his back and slowly walked towards the crater. Do you really think he's Quan Jinwei? Xing Ming's eyes flashed. Does Mr. Chu have any wise opinions? Chu Mingliang proudly said, I can't say that I have any wise opinions. I'm just advising the 3 of you to take your people and stand further away. I'm afraid that what's about to happen next will exceed your understanding. Kuan Ping and the other 2 immediately retreated. It wasn't that they were frightened by these words, but rather that they could feel the shocking heat emanating from Chu Mingliang's body. This origin energy aura was so great that it was difficult to look up to it. Xiao AI's voice was trembling. Heavens, according to my calculations, his origin energy index is over 250 million points. He's a standard mid-level combat monarch. Chu Mingliang's origin energy began to circulate. Even Ding Ming and Gu Ping covered their faces and retreated. This heat had already surpassed the realm of heat. It was like a raging wind blowing directly at them. Just one detail was enough to describe how terrifying this thermal battle monarch was. In a corner of the southern teleportation formation, Qin Yin and a group of white gloves were still analyzing the equipment. With their strength, they couldn't have instantly sensed the changes in the hall. At this moment, Sha Shige suddenly rushed over, picked up Qin Yin, and rushed into the tunnel. Just as they left, the equipment on the ground suddenly crackled and disintegrated. Then it spontaneously combusted. The people around them were instantly ignited by the heat wave, and their bodies were covered in flames. Then a fiery wind blew past, and these people were quickly reduced to piles of white bones. Finally, they were vaporized and disappeared without a trace. Ding Ming was also in awe. He had already retreated to the northern entrance and muttered, Is this the strength of a combat monarch? Kuan Ping originally didn't think much of Chu Mingliang, but now that he felt this aura, he was completely dumbfounded. Motherf asterisk Kerr. Motherf asterisk Kerr? Is he invincible? At this moment, Chu Mingliang suddenly flew up from the ground. His body seemed to freeze in midair as he struck the ground with a palm. A pillar of energy about 10 meters in diameter shot out from his palm. Its target was Quan Jinwei's corpse at the edge of the large crater. This pillar of energy was very strange. On the outside, it looked like wisps of blue ice energy were constantly leaking out, but on the inside, there was a thin red laser burning the corpse on the ground. Little Rascal said, "We can't rule out the possibility that he's a dual origin ability user who cultivates both heat and ice energy." This was very easy to understand. After cultivating to the combat monarch level, one was no longer limited by one's origin ability. They could use any kind of origin ability. This pillar of light wasn't an explosive attack. Instead, it repeatedly burned, penetrated, froze, decomposed, and vaporized the corpse on the ground. Xiao AI said, "I keep having the feeling that this isn't an external release of origin energy. Rather, it's some kind of secret technique." A minute later, a strange scene finally appeared. Quan Jinwei's corpse degenerated at an extremely fast speed, turning into a pool of glittering goo, like a ball of dark blue mercury. Chu Mingliang, who was still in midair, let out a low roar. His other hand shot out a similar pillar of energy. The two pillars of light superimposed on each other, and their combined power was clearly not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. Sure enough, the dark blue liquid immediately rose into the air and turned into a blue mist. At this moment, the red beam of heat at the center of the pillar of light disappeared, replaced by a blue beam of origin energy. It was clear that he had completely used ice origin energy. Strangely, the pillar of light was filled with countless arcs of electricity. Sparks of electricity crackled as they exploded. From a distance, it looked as if Chu Mingliang had turned into a human railgun. However, this was what everyone was curious about. Why was he using such a powerful weapon to deal with a corpse? Everyone quickly realized what he was doing. The ball of blue mist gradually shrank under the immense pressure. A moment later, Ding Ming cried out in shock. A water droplet? Chu Mingliang had already descended to the ground. He stood at the edge of the large crater and raised his right hand. The pillar of light had already condensed into a blue sphere of energy. A blue water droplet that looked like a gem was bouncing around within this sphere of energy. It seemed to be trapped within Chu Mingliang's palm. This water droplet was the strange creature that Chu Mingliang had mentioned in the True Shuiyu Mountain. The strange creature struggled for a long time, but to no avail. Only then did it float limply within the sphere of energy. From its appearance, it looked like a translucent, exquisite object. However, Ding Ming and the others could sense that this water droplet exuded an extremely powerful life force. It was as if they were pressing against their own chest, and they could clearly feel the strange, sonorous beat of their heart. That was a sign of exuberant vitality. Chu Mingliang looked at the water droplet, and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. 30 years ago, I knew that I was no match for you. When your accomplice massacred the soldiers of the Norse Empire, I bet you didn't expect me to see it all, did you? Ding Ming wondered to himself. Could it be that True Fusion and the True Shuiyu Mountain weren't the first to discover the Divine Light Starship, and that there was another water droplet that had been released first? It was devouring the Norse Empire's discover? Could it be that Chu Mingliang had seen all of this from the shadows? The water droplet floated limply within Chu Mingliang's palm, unresponsive. Chu Mingliang sneered. "Answer my questions honestly, and I'll give you a way out." After saying this, he squeezed his 5 fingers, and the force field shrank. The water droplet seemed to be squeezed by a great deal of pressure, and it began to writhe with all its might. And this time, even Kuan Ping and the others were so shocked that their jaws dropped. This was because they all heard the water droplet emitting a voice that was neither male nor female. It sounded like a ghost or a machine at the same time. If there really were demons in this world, then this voice was undoubtedly one of them. The most important thing was that this voice was still speaking in human language. Yes, that's right. My companion was still very weak at that time and did not receive sufficient nourishment. It was not able to sense your existence. Only now do I know that you were the one who ejected it into the endless depths of the universe. Chu Mingliang smiled proudly. You are very smart, the water droplet said. I have always been one of the most intelligent life forms in the universe. Chu Mingliang said, It's a pity that you have now fallen into my hands. The water droplet suddenly stopped talking. Chu Mingliang squeezed his fingers again, and the force field shrank to the size of a cup. The water droplet seemed to be in pain, and it immediately reacted. What do you want to ask? Chu Mingliang stared at it, his eyes as sharp as swords. The Divine Light Starship's Holy Temple Map. Where is it hidden? When the words Holy Temple Map were mentioned, Ding Meng felt his heart pound. Back when Little Rascal's authority was upgraded, the Holy Temple Map had appeared in its database, and there was a hint that it was closely related to the K-virus. In the safe of Flying Star City's energy warehouse, he had also obtained a memory chip called Holy Temple Map 05. Later on, Little Rascal had checked it, but it was filled with all kinds of messy lines and dots of light. It was impossible to tell what it was at all. Now that Chu Mingliang had mentioned the Holy Temple Map, Ding Meng had a feeling that this Holy Temple Map was related to an extraordinary secret, and that several life forms of different civilizations were looking for it. Little Rascal said, I understand now. Chu Mingliang has spent so much effort not to find the K-virus, but the Holy Temple Map, because the K-virus is probably related to the secret of the Holy Temple Map. Chapter 364. The water droplet said, I haven't found it either. Chu Mingliang sneered. You haven't found it after 20 years. The water droplet said, I've searched every nook and cranny of the Divine Light Starship, except for the warehouse. Chu Mingliang said, You mean to say that the map of the Holy Temple is hidden in the warehouse? The water droplet said, Very likely. Chu Mingliang sneered again. The teleportation array is right here, and you haven't been able to get in even after 20 years? The water droplet said, The teleportation array has been locked down by Divine Light technology, and the teleportation is random. It can teleport you to any location on the starship, but it can't teleport you into the warehouse. If you want to enter the warehouse, you have to unlock the protective command. The protective command can only be unlocked by a Divine Light life form, or it can be unlocked by an even more complicated command. Xiao AI said, That's strange. Why was ACT 557 sent in so quickly? Little Rascal said, Perhaps I know. Ding Meng asked curiously why. Little Rascal was surprisingly silent. Chu Mingliang was still asking questions. You've already devoured Fusion Jun, but you still can't unlock the command? The water droplet said, I can unlock it, but I need to evolve in time. Chu Mingliang said, You've already evolved into a human. What else do you need to evolve? The water droplet said, I still need to devour the knowledge of origin ability users and statisticians. That way, I can shorten the time needed. Chu Mingliang said, With these conditions in place, how long will it take? The water droplet said, Not long. 350 years will be enough. Perhaps for a life form like the water droplet, 350 years was just the blink of an eye, but for a human, this process was undoubtedly too long. Chu Mingliang definitely couldn't afford to wait that long. It was unknown just how long he would be able to live. The conversation between the two left the others dumbfounded. This matter was truly beyond their understanding. However, Ding Meng knew that the water droplet wasn't spouting nonsense. Just as Fusion Jun had calculated, with its current intelligence and knowledge, it wasn't enough to unlock the protective command of the warehouse. It needed time, knowledge, learning, and evolution. These conditions were too many and too difficult. This wasn't something it could do in its current form. Chu Mingliang suddenly became expressionless. Very good. Since you've answered my questions honestly, I'll definitely let you live. The water droplet hesitated. Are you really willing to let me go? Chu Ming Liang said, Of course I, Chu Ming Liang, am a man of my word. After he finished speaking, the blue light of the force field flashed rapidly and suddenly shrank to the size of a ping-pong ball. The water droplets inside made a terrifying hissing sound similar to that of a poisonous snake. Although the others didn't understand the language of this creature, when they heard this crazy hissing sound, they could feel that this was a devastating blow, like the wailing of a dying person. An intense blue light flashed on Chu Ming Liang's face, making him look incomparably ferocious. The strange creature was strong enough, but it still didn't understand that among all the things in the universe, the treacherous and cunning of humans was the most terrifying. Do you really think that you'll live if you tell the truth? You're completely wrong. You'll die if you tell the truth, but you'll die even faster if you don't. The force field was now like a powerful stone crusher, and the water droplet was now the stone inside. No matter how it crashed, it would not be able to shake this machine. After a while, the water droplet finally couldn't hold on any longer. With a bang, it exploded into countless blue powders and adhered to the walls of the force field. The force field truly turned into a blue ping-pong ball. Chu Ming Liang flicked his wrist, and the ping-pong ball was thrown into the middle of the pit. Boom! An earth-shattering sound was heard. It was probably the force field that exploded, and the entire hull collapsed by 4 to 5 meters. Ding Meng was also extremely shocked. The water droplet that had fought with Fujin Jun on Shuiyu Mountain for 7 years, and had also lurked underground for 20 years. At the same time, it had absorbed so much energy and swallowed so many humans. In the hands of Chu Ming Liang, it was as weak as a persimmon and was destroyed in just a few moves. At the same time, in the command hall of the SS expedition, all the lights were lit up and the main control panel raised a screen. Lan Bing, Meng Yin, Du Mo, and Irene were standing around. Shuiyu Mountainside. It's a pity that the Ice Frog exploration ship can't be activated without the password. Fujin Jun, on the other hand, was full of confidence. He said loudly, My ship is enough. Everyone listen to my command. S. Expedition, activate the engine. The system's voice sounded again after more than 20 years. The voice was very sweet. Receiving the commander's command, the engine has been activated. Fujin Jun said, detecting the current environment. The powerful technology of Starship was not something that a single human could compare to. Although this was a small starship from 30 years ago, the main control panel screen was still slowly generating a topographic map of the environment. However, the environment 20,000 meters underground, other than a few passages and halls nearby, the map was still blank. Fujin Jun said, activate the ship's secondary cannons. Target, fire at will. S. Expedition was actually similar to a Skywalker assault ship. Its shape was like a sharp bullet, and there were 8 wings at the back. Once the engine was activated, the 8 ion thrusters at the back would spit out fire at the same time. The railgun at the front would be able to penetrate thousands of kilometers of soil in an instant. Moreover, it was very easy to hit a dead rat by accident. The energy beam could drill from underground to the surface and even hit into space. At this moment in space, in the command hall of the Golden Eagle mothership of the SSN-6L9T1 patrol fleet, the quantum radar immediately detected the energy cluster emitted from Planet Thorn. Someone in the reconnaissance area immediately exclaimed, Sir, we have detected the signal. The source of the signal is underground of Planet Thorn. The approximate area is DBF 565,373 area. Du Peixing was shocked. He quickly glanced at the big screen in the center and said, It must be Murphy. What's the situation? The scout immediately reported, The signal is unclear. We can't contact them for now. Judging from the energy beam, it's the ship's secondary cannons. There must be a large unit flying up from underground. The scout's judgment was completely correct. Fujin Jun was even more confident now. Activate the Mystic Golden Diamond Probe. Target, the surface of planet Thorn. When he gave the order, Ding Meng and the others who were in the teleportation circle hall all felt it. The walls started to shake again, and there was a rumbling sound coming from afar. Everyone present was very experienced. When they heard the rumbling sound, they knew that someone had activated a large mechanical unit. They were probably trying to escape. Anyone who dared to fly under the military's nose was definitely not one of them. Chu Ming Liang suddenly turned his head and stared coldly at Ding Meng. He immediately guessed what was going on. Chu Lei and Feiers had not arrived yet. Instead, there was movement in the distance. This meant that Ding Meng's accomplices had killed Chu Lei and Feiers. Chu Ming Liang smiled again and turned to Fu Zhonghui. Fu Zhonghui, I didn't expect your subordinates to be so capable. Fu Zhonghui had been staying at the north entrance. He did not let his guard down. He had guessed that Du Mo, Irene, and the others had successfully boarded the ship with Fu Jinjin's help. It was good that they were fine. Fu Zhonghui said calmly, but I still can't compare to Mr. Chu. Your ambition is too great. It's way beyond our expectations. He did not know what the Holy Temple map was, but he knew a thing or two about the Xinguang civilization. It was obvious that Chu Ming Liang had his eyes on Xinguang technology. Once he had control of this technology and energy source, the Haitian group would dominate the Federation. In the worst-case scenario, Chu Ming Liang could even conquer the Federal Empire, or battle lords and battle sages. Conquering the human world would be an incredible achievement. No wonder he had been hiding for more than 20 years. Fu Zhonghui could not help but be shocked by Chu Ming Liang's shrewdness. Seeing Chu Ming Liang walking slowly with his hands behind his back, Ding Meng knew that this was the final moment. He suddenly jumped up and waved his hand, sending out a wave of source energy. The source energy transformed into a tiger's head and smashed into the ground. This palm strike was not aimed at Chu Ming Liang, but at the depths of the crater. Through Ding Meng's powerful telekinetic vision, he could see that the water droplet had not been destroyed. Although it had been crushed into powder, it had turned into a light blue mist in the crater. The mist continued to spiral and spread. Although it did not show any signs of life, its movement was not normal because it kept floating upwards. Others might not have noticed it, but Ding Meng kept his eyes on it. His intuition told him that since this was a high-level creature that had dominated the universe for billions of years, it would not be so easy to destroy. Once this palm strike was unleashed, no matter what form the mist was in, it would be blown to smithereens. Ding Meng's confidence was completely shattered in the next second. Something he never dreamed would happen. Chu Ming Liang waved his hand, and an invisible wave of energy changed the direction of the divine sun tiger palm. The tiger's head slammed into the ceiling, and with a boom, it blew a hole in the ceiling. In the instant that Chu Ming Liang waved his hand, this light mist of energy covered every part of Chu Ming Liang's body with a whoosh. It really was like a blue veil covering his body. Mr. Chu, Gu Ping cried out in alarm. Chu Ming Liang suddenly clutched at his throat. Cracking sounds came from his throat, and his entire body began to glow with a blue light, as if he had been poisoned. Little rascal cried out in alarm. Not good. The water droplet has entered his body. It's probably going to swallow him whole. Shit! Ding Meng's heart sank. If the water droplet had attached itself to Chu Ming Liang's body, it would be very troublesome. Xiao AI decisively ordered, use this opportunity to get rid of him. That's not right. Ding Meng's eyes widened. Little rascal was also shocked. Isn't this the same situation as when the K-virus transformed you, Ding Meng? Chu Ming Liang, who was at the edge of the crater, had turned into a white humanoid in the blink of an eye. This terrifying scene made everyone involuntarily take a few steps back. This transformation lasted for an entire minute before it stopped. At this time, everyone's mouths and eyes were wide open in shock. The scene before them was too exaggerated, too strange, and too shocking. Chapter 365. In the center of the teleportation circle hall, the humanoid light pupil had split into two. One was a bright white pupil, and the other was a light blue pupil. The blue pupil seemed to have split from the white pupil, but after the two pupils returned to normal, the white pupil was Chu Ming Liang himself. Although the blue pupil was Chu Ming Liang's image, its body was translucent energy mist. So, it was obvious that it was Droplet. Droplet hissed, "What did you do to me?" "Ha ha ha ha." Chu Ming Liang suddenly raised his head and laughed. "Do you think this trick of yours will work on me?" Droplet's voice finally became fearful. "What happened? Why did my power decrease by half?" Chu Ming Liang was still laughing. "You have been hiding underground for 20 years. Do you think I haven't thoroughly studied you? Not only do I know that you are an exotic life form, but I also know that you belong to the Kelvin Spore civilization." As soon as it heard this, Little Rascal immediately searched its database and said in a deep voice, "The Kelvin civilization is a very ancient civilization in the universe. It originated from an extreme environment, using liquid helium as its foundation and superconducting energy as its medium. Their adaptability is very strong, and they have the ability to quickly learn, efficiently imitate, and directly devour. Among the trillions of spore forms, only one or two can survive. Once they find a body to possess, they can quickly evolve. This civilization has already been destroyed by other god-level civilizations, but it is very difficult for spores to completely die. Their particles float in the depths of the universe, patiently waiting for a new life. Although the human race's understanding of this civilization was limited, Ding Meng could still tell that this strange life form, Droplet, was very difficult to truly destroy. At the same time, he also understood that Chu Ming Liang waved his hand to block his attack, not because he thought that it was a sneak attack, but because he wanted to absorb the Droplet himself. But in order to not be devoured by the Droplet, during the fusion process, he used some unknown method to force the Droplet out of his body, causing the Droplet's strength to greatly decrease. The Droplet suddenly laughed creepily. "You were celebrating too early. Although I didn't devour you, I have already fused with a part of you. I have already stolen part of your memories." Chu Ming Liang laughed. "It's too early for you to be happy. I deliberately let you take away that portion. You've been hit by a backlash-type origin body. Your 20 years of hard work has been for naught." Ding Meng frowned and asked, "What's with the origin body that has a backlash type?" Little Rascal immediately replied, "This is also a type of cultivation method, but it's an anti-origin energy cultivation method that goes against the scientific system. Strictly speaking, it's a crooked method." In the early stages of the Devouring War, after the Federation soldiers fell, they would often be devoured by the monsters, allowing the devourers to absorb their origin energy and evolve. After evolving, they would naturally become stronger. At that time, Zhu Lixian's team of doctors had yet to develop an antidote for the poison, so they were helpless against the Devouring War. In order to prevent the Devouring War from snowballing, many origin energy users cultivated this type of origin body. In layman's terms, when a predator monster devours an origin ability user, not only will this origin ability user not evolve, but it will also destroy the bloodline within the monster's body. A warrior-level monster may not lose much by devouring one origin ability user, but as the number of deaths increases, then the bloodline of the monster will be completely destroyed. This is a typical method of sacrificing 800 to kill 1,000 enemies. Xiao AI said, "So he's been cultivating this for the past 20 years. He's been waiting for this day." Little Rascal was puzzled. His own strength will also decrease. It's not worth it for a Battle Monarch's strength to decrease, because the Droplet hasn't reached the Battle Monarch level yet. Xiao AI said in a low voice, "I don't think so. He must have his reasons for doing this." Sure enough, Chu Ming Liang laughed even more happily. "Do you really think I'm careless? Let me tell you, I now have the same ability as you, and I already know part of the technical principles behind Xinguang biotechnology." "You're lying," the Droplet roared. "You don't believe me?" Chu Ming Liang suddenly waved his hand. This time, even Ding Meng was shocked. Chu Ming Liang's body seemed to have turned into liquid. His entire body twisted and blurred. In the blink of an eye, he had transformed into another person. This person was Quan Jinwei. Moreover, Chu Ming Liang's transformation speed was even faster than Meng Yan's phantom fantasy art. Ding Meng really didn't know what kind of secret technique he had cultivated. Chu Ming Liang waved his hand again, and his entire body transformed back into Fujin Moss's youthful appearance. These were all the humans the droplet had devoured. The droplet was actually retreating. It also felt fear. How can this be? Chu Ming Liang sneered. It's very simple. I'll let you merge with me. I am you, and you are me. However, I'm always stronger than you. Just when you think you can completely devour me, I can easily drive you out. The droplet gritted its teeth and said, You've destroyed half of your strength. I'm afraid you'll lose more than you gain. Chu Ming Liang laughed even harder. Even if I only have half of my strength, I can still kill you. I've also obtained the real method to kill you from your brain. The droplet no longer spoke. It retreated and suddenly turned around. Pung! It turned into a blue mist and floated towards the teleportation array. It's too late to run. Chu Ming Liang sneered. He twisted his wrist, and his 5 fingers formed a claw and pulled back. The blue mist was pulled into his palm, and once again degenerated into the droplet. However, this time, the droplet's color and luster were not as good as before. The blue force field appeared in his palm again. After another flash of blue light, the droplet exploded into powder. However, this time, Chu Ming Liang did not throw it away. Instead, he opened his mouth and sucked in the powder. The real way to destroy you is to absorb you into my body and make you a part of me. You will forever be under my control. Chu Ming Liang smacked his lips in satisfaction. It looked like he had eaten a delicious meal. This strange scene caused everyone to retreat in shock. Mr. Chu, Mr. Chu? Gu Ping looked at the center of the hall in horror. Ding Meng said in a low voice, It's useless. It's no longer your Mr. Chu. Gu Ping said in shock, What's going on? Ding Meng sighed. Look carefully at its eyes. Gu Ping noticed that Chu Ming Liang's eyes seemed to be emitting red fluctuations. This was the sign of evolving into a demonic eye. This is... Gu Ping hesitated. Ding Meng said, just as he said, he is the droplet, and the droplet is him. They have completely merged. However, the droplet should have been the one controlling him. Now, he is the one controlling everything. He is no longer human. He has evolved into a monster. These words were very difficult for Gu Ping to understand because he didn't know the whole story. Chu Ming Liang's current body already possessed the characteristics of the 3 major races: the Spore Bizarre Entity, the Human Origin Ability User, and the World-Devouring Monster. Moreover, it had successfully evolved and perfectly fused together. Just the complex aura that was being emitted from his body made Ding Meng feel an unprecedented fear. It wasn't just the powerful energy fluctuations of an Origin Ability user. It was also a combination of intense poison and an indescribable blank. The droplet gave people the feeling of blank. It was colorless and tasteless, but it was everywhere. However, one could feel its existence. Monster! Hearing Ding Meng's words, Chu Ming Liang sneered disdainfully. Ignorant human. You don't know the vastness of a universe and the complexity of life. Humans are nothing but ants. This voice and tone were exactly the same as the droplet. Chu Ming Liang's own voice was mixed in. It was difficult to distinguish between the real and the fake. Gu Ping looked at Chu Ming Liang in disbelief. Mr. Chu, how did you become like this? Chu Ming Liang revealed a gentle expression. Gu Ping, you've followed me for 2 centuries. Don't you know what kind of person I am? I've been planning for a long time. I've been waiting for this day to come. I've now obtained an unparalleled power. Come here, and let's go to the new world together. No matter how loyal Gu Ping was to Chu Ming Liang, he was no fool. He had already seen the terrifying changes before him. He asked in a trembling voice, New world? What new world? Chu Ming Liang revealed a fanatical expression. We're going to the Holy Temple to obtain the strongest power in the universe. The Holy Temple. Gu Ping was at a loss. He obviously didn't know what that place was. Chu Ming Liang proudly said, This droplet racked its brains to enter this Shengguang starship. Do you really think it covets the Shengguang crystal? There are energy sources in the universe that are thousands of times more powerful than the Shengguang crystal. Those precious energy sources are in the Holy Temple. The Shengguang civilization has only come into contact with one or two of them, and they've already developed advanced Shengguang technology. He suddenly looked at Ding Meng. Professor Harksini has also come into contact with the Holy Temple's energy source. He used a little bit to create the invincible K-virus. With such energy in our hands, don't you think we can create a new world? We'll be the gods of this world. We can even become the gods of this universe. Everyone was completely shocked. This kind of thing was really too crazy, but they didn't doubt that the possibility he described didn't exist. So this was the origin of the Holy Temple's map and the K-virus. If there really was such a place in the universe, it would definitely be fought over by the godlike civilizations. In that case, the map would be of utmost importance. At this time, Little Rascal shouted, "Not good!" Ding Meng turned his head to look. The soldiers behind him had all collapsed to the ground. Guping's eyes were glazed, and his expression was dazed. He was staggering towards Chu Ming Liang. This is bad. Xiao Ai was also nervous. He's Chu Ming Liang's loyal follower. He'll be easily controlled by Chu Ming Liang's infectious telekinesis. It looks like Chu Ming Liang wants to fuse with him. Ding Meng suddenly understood. Chu Ming Liang had absorbed the droplet, which meant he had Fujianzhen's abilities. But he was a war monarch. How powerful was his telekinesis? "Stop him!" Little Rascal shouted. "If he fuses with Guping, we won't be able to do anything to him." Chapter 366. Little Rascal and Xiao Ai were both calculating. In order to absorb the water droplet, Chu Ming Liang didn't hesitate to use a backlash-type origin body. At that time, his origin energy index had dropped from 250 million to around 110 million. However, even though his strength had dropped by half, this meant that he was still a beginner-level combat monarch. Now that Chu Ming Liang had devoured Guping, his strength would probably recover immediately. Moreover, he had the strength of so many people. Even if they worked together, they wouldn't be able to harm him. Ding Meng didn't say anything and immediately activated his origin energy. His eyes opened wide, and nearly 700 telekinesis points poured out, forming a celestial rain in front of Guping. Ding Meng's fortuitous encounter in the Divine Light warehouse had caused each of his telekinesis points to double in size. His telekinesis vision had also increased. As soon as the telekinesis was released, Guping seemed to wake up quite a bit. He looked around with sleepy eyes. "What's going on? Why am I so sleepy?" Chu Ming Liang was also a bit surprised. "I didn't expect you to improve so quickly. You really aren't inferior to the water droplet." His tone suddenly changed, becoming pleasantly surprised and greedy. "I forgot that you have the K-virus and telekinesis. These are exactly what I lack. I'll let you live for a while. Cherish these few minutes of life." As soon as he finished speaking, Ding Meng felt a strong pressure coming from the front like a mountain. He couldn't even see clearly what it was. His whole body flew into the air and hit the wall above the entrance with a bang. At the same time that Ding Meng was sent flying, Xingming, who was at the left entrance, roared angrily. He instantly activated 6 giant walls of holy splendor, forming a space that trapped Chu Ming Liang inside. "Don't look!" Kuan Ping, who was facing Xingming, roared. "If we really let this alien monster out, not only will we die, but the Holy Grail Federation will also suffer an unprecedented catastrophe." This roar woke Kuan Ping from his fear. He also realized the severity of the consequences. He picked up a short sword and charged at Chu Ming Liang. Fu Zhonghui secretly sighed when he heard this. The heroic spirit that had been obliterated for many years in his body was stimulated. He also rushed out like an arrow and shouted in the air, "Damn you, Xingming, you really have guts. I admire Sheng Hao for having people like you." After he finished speaking, he pulled out 2 sharp wrist blades from his sleeves and pointed them at Chu Ming Liang's head. As soon as he moved, Zheng Mei also let out a clear cry. She put her palms together and pull them apart. Inside the wall of holy splendor, an almost transparent ice wall formed by the dark ice force wrapped around Chu Ming Liang like lightning. The four of them were all experienced experts. They knew that this was no small matter. Therefore, all four of them used their ultimate moves. The dark ice force first froze Chu Ming Liang to the point that he couldn't move at all. Then, the 6 holy walls quickly closed together. This scene was like casting a statue. With a kacha sound, Chu Ming Liang's body was covered in a layer of golden paint. Kuan Ping's short sword flew out, turning into a thin beam of light that pierced through the air towards Chu Ming Liang's temple. Fu Zhonghui appeared in front of Chu Ming Liang in a flash, his wrist blades mercilessly chopping towards Chu Ming Liang's heart. At this moment, the four people's actions were surprisingly coordinated. However, Chu Ming Liang didn't even move. The 2 layers of origin energy enveloped his body. With 2 fingers, he casually clammed down on Kuan Ping's short sword. Fu Zhonghui's wrist blades had clearly pierced Chu Ming Liang's heart, but Chu Ming Liang still had a smile on his face, as if he didn't take this lightning-fast attack seriously. The 4 people were dumbfounded. Everyone's first reaction was that this was impossible. Chu Ming Liang didn't dodge at all, nor did he use any martial skills. No matter how heaven-defying a battle monarch was, it was impossible for his physical body to withstand the combined attacks of 3 battle generals and 1 battle master. Chu Ming Liang's lips curled up into a proud smile. You didn't expect this, did you? The strength of an evolution is not something that you ordinary people can imagine. Now, I'll return it to you. With a schwa sound, the wall of holy brilliance and dark ice force that were binding him were immediately reflected back, and the 4 people were sent flying. Boom, boom, boom. A chain of explosions occurred on the walls of the large hall. The entire cavern shook violently, and the soil on the ceiling continued to fall. After all, the origin energy of these 4 people was too strong. The cavern couldn't withstand such a powerful bombardment, and the cavern was probably going to collapse. Even though the cavern was collapsing, the 16 ghost eyes hovered in the air without any changes. Chu Ming Liang still had his hands behind his back as he slowly walked towards the teleportation array. What was he trying to do? Xing Ming didn't understand. Chu Ming Liang didn't want his life. Could it be that he wanted to teleport away? In any case, no matter what he was trying to do, Ding Ming wouldn't just stand there and do nothing. He also flew into the air, and with a wave of his hand, the catoptric deflection instantly transformed into a large sword that stabbed towards Chu Ming Liang. Chu Ming Liang didn't dodge, and he allowed Ding Ming to stab him. In Ding Ming's eyes, the sword felt as if it had stabbed into water. It was completely empty. However, the sword had clearly pierced Chu Ming Liang's heart, and the tip of the sword had even come out of his chest. Ding Ming was dumbfounded. He had never encountered such a situation before. Chu Ming Liang laughed sinisterly. It's useless. You're just wasting your efforts. After saying this, his entire body suddenly turned into liquid and collapsed, becoming a puddle of bluish-green liquid on the ground. This puddle of liquid quickly moved along the ground, and when it reached the center of the teleportation array, it transformed back into Chu Ming Liang's body as if it had been enchanted. In the blink of an eye, Chu Ming Liang was standing there perfectly fine. This is the ability of a world-devouring monster, Little Rascal reminded. Let's attack together. Xing Ming was anxious. The remaining 3 didn't fall behind. They rushed up and started a flurry of punches, kicks, and swords. However, Chu Ming Liang didn't take the 4 of them seriously at all. He faced the ghost, and muttered some incomprehensible words. He slowly raised his left hand, and large amounts of formless energy flowed from his palm into it. Meanwhile, his right hand was blocking the fierce attacks of the 4 people. He didn't even move his feet. At this moment, Ding Ming noticed that the ghost eye had changed. All of the teleportation array's revealed eyes, and the surrounding scenery became blurry. The ghost eye quickly revolved around Chu Ming Liang, and the shaking hall turned into a world of light. This was a hall of light. Ding Meng shouted according to Little Rascal's explanation. He absorbed the water droplet and knows part of Divine Light Technology's operations. This is because the Divine Light starship has been destroyed. He's sending a command to the warehouse for protection. The warehouse will automatically activate the teleportation array and transfer this space to a safe zone. In fact, he didn't finish his sentence because Fu Zhonghui and the rest might not understand why the water droplet didn't touch the remaining SS Expedition and SS Ice Frog ships for so many years. It knew that at the last moment, these two ships could help it evacuate. SS Expedition had not yet emerged from the ground, but the system sounded. Warning, warning, unknown energy has locked onto the ship. Main system has lost control. All crew members, please evacuate immediately. All crew members, please evacuate immediately. Warning, warning, what's going on? Duomo was shocked. At this moment, the changes on the spaceship were something no one had ever seen before. The entire control console suddenly glowed with a blinding white light. The alloy, machinery, and steel plates on the exterior were all turned into light. The shape of the control console did not change, but the texture had all turned into a strong light. It wasn't just the main control console. All the facilities on the ship had turned into light in an instant. Feng Jianjin was shocked. It's Divine Light Technologies. Such a huge amount of energy. I understand now. The Divine Light starship was destroyed long ago. This energy will transform SS Expedition into a second Divine Light starship. This is the water droplets doing, Shuiyu Mountain said. The protection command must have been triggered. The energy is flowing in continuously. It's the transmission array. What should we do? Duomo was anxious too. Shuiyu Mountain walked to the main control console and carefully looked at the complicated patterns on the screen. The route has been changed. The final destination is... He looked up in shock, his electronic eyes flashing wildly. It's the holy city of the Holy Grail Federation. Irene was anxious. What is it trying to do? Feng Jianjin pondered. It has already been exposed. It wants to fly to the place with the most people and origin ability users. It will crazily devour, absorb, and evolve until it destroys all life forms to make itself stronger. Lan Bing said decisively, fly the ship back. However, Duomo was dumbfounded. On the screen of the main control console, all the interfaces had changed. They were all pictures and words that he couldn't understand at all. It was definitely the language of the Kelvin civilization. Feng Jianjin said, it's too late to fly back. This old bastard needs time to translate these words. Get out of the ground and ask for backup. Shuiyu Mountain said, I still know how to use this command. While the people on the S expedition were panicking, Ding Meng's side was in full swing, including Ding Meng himself. No matter how the five of them attacked, Chu Mingliang was able to resolve them with one hand. He was calm and didn't panic at all. The gap between the two sides was too big. It was so big that it made them feel despair. Is there no way to kill him? Ding Meng also felt a little discouraged. He had never been afraid, but this feeling really made him feel powerless. No, there is a way. I'm analyzing its composition. Little Rascal said decisively. Although it has 3 life forms, Chu Mingliang is currently in the dominant position, which is the human life form. The brain is the core of a human. Only by attacking and destroying his brain can we cause fatal damage to him. Understood. Ding Meng slowly took a few steps back and silently raised his catoptric deflection. At this moment, Fu Zhonghui and the others were really suffering. They finally experienced the power of this freak. Almost all the martial arts manuals were useless against him. Chu Mingliang obviously didn't kill them because he wanted to exhaust them and then devour them one by one. If he really succeeded in devouring this group of people in front of him, then he would really be invincible. Chapter 367. The array was still spinning. Light appeared like a tide and disappeared like the wind. After an unknown amount of time, all of the eyes in the array began to flicker with symbols, accompanied by a rhythmic DDD sound. It was very likely that the teleportation countdown had begun. With a pung sound, a figure was sent flying. Kuan Ping was leaning against a corner, blood constantly flowing from the corner of his mouth. He was the weakest of the group, and he couldn't withstand such a long period of exhaustion. In fact, up until now, only Xingming was able to hold his ground. Fu Zhonghui and Zheng Mei were unable to cause any substantial damage to Chu Ming Liang. After a few more rounds, Fu Zhonghui and Zheng Mei were also sent flying by Chu Ming Liang. Xingming was the only one left struggling to hold on. Both the Wall of Holy Splendor and the Origin Steel Shield were on his body. If he wasn't careful, Chu Ming Liang would easily smash him to pieces. Suddenly, another figure flew over like a cannonball. This person's fists were abnormally hard. When the two fists collided with Chu Ming Liang's outstretched palms, Chu Ming Liang couldn't help but take 2 steps back. When he looked up again, he couldn't help but be surprised. "Goping, what are you doing?" Goping had already woken up. He sent a low voice, "Get out of Mr. Chu's body." Chu Ming Liang's voice had indeed changed. He laughed sinisterly. "How did you know it was me?" Goping didn't answer. He suddenly threw a straight punch. With a pung sound, a red fist image appeared in the air. Perhaps this punch didn't mean much to the people present, but in the blink of an eye, another punch was thrown. The size of the fist image quickly doubled. Ding Meng was shocked. This was the 3-layered waves technique. In fact, it couldn't be considered a martial skill. Ren Tianlan had taught him this trick back on Planet V4. However, this 3-layered waves technique was suitable for ice origin energy. For Goping, a thermodynamic origin energy user, to be able to use it so perfectly, it would be strange if he hadn't practiced this technique for hundreds of years. Chu Ming Liang's expression also changed. He suddenly discovered that his entire body was covered in a layer of fiery red origin energy. This was the full power of a high-level warlord. It contained the effects of confinement, melting, smelting, tearing, vibrating, and materialization. It was impossible to turn into a liquid state to negate this attack. When he raised his head, Chu Ming Liang was enraged. "You dare to betray me?" Goping was like a fiery red spinning top as he charged forward. Boom! This time, the fiery wind generated by the explosion was like a tidal wave crashing into a reef, completely engulfing everyone. Fu Zhonghui, Xingming, and the other simple armor was instantly shattered. Ding Meng was also sent flying. Even though he had origin energy to protect his body, his clothes were still set ablaze. This devastating blow seemed to have affected the teleportation array. Even the rotating white light dimmed significantly. "Who?" Chu Ming Liang spat out a mouthful of blood. His blood was actually azure in color. "You're courting death." Chu Ming Liang grabbed Goping by the throat and lifted him up. "I gave you food to eat, taught you martial arts, and this is how you treat me." Goping sneered. "Ding Meng is right. You are no longer human." As he spoke, he stretched out his hands and placed them on Chu Ming Liang's shoulders, and a large amount of pure origin energy surged out from his palms. Chu Ming Liang's body suddenly emitted a sharp sound, as if someone was blowing a very ear-piercing whistle. Moreover, his body was completely red, like a piece of iron that had been thoroughly burned red. "Now," Little Rascal said decisively. At this moment, 3 identical copies of Ding Meng appeared around Chu Ming Liang. The solitary dance of the serene lotus had already begun. Chu Ming Liang also felt that something was amiss, but now that Goping had him firmly pinned down, he couldn't help but open his mouth and roar, "Kill!" This roar sent Goping flying. Fu Zhonghui and Zheng Mei covered their ears, and all the origin energy effects on Xing Ming's body shattered with a ding-ling sound. As for Kuan Ping, who was in the far corner, blood flowed from his mouth and nose, and he fainted. However, Ding Meng, who was in the secret codex state, was unaffected. Each of them held their swords in a classic stabbing stance. Xiao Ai's voice became excited. "Diamond Star Technique. Operate at full power." Within the area formed by the 3 Ding Meng, a golden diamond force field was forming. Within it, specks of origin energy sprinkled down, just like a golden drizzle. Not good. Chu Ming Liang's expression changed. He could already feel that this origin energy was extraordinary. Wasn't this the same type of energy as Xinguang Technologies? He hadn't guessed wrong. Ding Meng had completely absorbed the mysterious energy of the Xinguang crystal back in the Crystal Plaza. This energy, which could transform between the three forms, had already formed a huge confinement force field for him. He wanted to prevent Chu Ming Liang from liquefying. As long as Chu Ming Liang wasn't in liquid form, Catoptr deflection would be able to pierce through him. Suddenly, the three Ding Meng finally moved. They floated toward Chu Ming Liang like ghosts. If one looked closely, they would notice that Ding Meng was in front with his sword behind. As soon as he floated up, he passed through Chu Ming Liang's body and floated to the opposite side. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. In the center of the force field, countless Ding Meng flew back and forth. Countless sword flashes filled the sky like feathers. The sound of flesh being torn apart rang out incessantly. Chu Ming Liang's body constantly twisted and spasmed, and he grunted from his nose. Fu Zhonghui, who was squatting on the ground, was dumbfounded. No one had expected that Ding Meng, who was only a combat master, would be able to use such a powerful and magnificent secret codex. This was the fifth move of Zhao's solitary sword, and also the strongest move. Man and sword as one. The essence of the sword, the movement of the qi, the dense mist of the body, the unity of man and nature, the will before the sword, and the divine power will destroy the enemy. Such a frenzied attack lasted for a full minute. Suddenly, the three Ding Meng floated back to their original positions, turned around, and stood still. Their figures gradually dimmed until they disappeared. Almost everyone looked up at the sky at the same time. They saw a bright white, sacred sword as thick as a giant tree descending from the sky. It pierced through Chu Ming Liang's head and came out from between his legs, finally sinking into the soles of his feet. This was the purest essence of Ding Meng's diamond star-fusing art. Coupled with Catoptr deflection, it was able to pierce through the materialization light screen created by Xinguang Technologies. It was only then that Ding Meng's real body appeared a few dozen meters behind Chu Ming Liang. He knelt on one knee and clasped his hands together, as if he was holding an invisible sword and was thrusting it into the ground. Silence. There was nothing but silence. Everyone was shocked. They weren't shocked by this battle technique, but by the fact that Ding Meng, a combat master, was able to split Chu Ming Liang in half. The two halves of Chu Ming Liang's body were still stuck to the sword's edge. His eyes were still darting up and down, and the expression on his face showed that he couldn't believe this was real. In the next second, Chu Ming Liang let out a demonic shriek like the water droplets from before. The two halves of his body exploded with a bang, and countless bluish-green blood spurted out from the center, forming a cloud of mist. After the mist dissipated, even little rascal Xiao AI was dumbfounded. No way. That didn't kill it? What the hell is this? Fu Zhonghui and the others were horrified. What appeared in front of them was a monster they had never seen before. It had the appearance of the Qilin, the ancient mythological beast of the Huaxia clan. Its skin was covered in gray scales, and its claws were as large as tables and as sharp as knives. However, instead of a head, there were 5 giant snakes sticking out of its body. Each snake was several meters long, but its head was in the shape of a dragon's head. Their mouths were wide open, and their teeth were shaped like spikes. Xing Ming's voice trembled. Could this be the legendary demonic dragon alien? The demonic dragon alien's voice was that of a water droplet. Bastards, how dare you destroy my body and return me to my original form? I'll make it so that you won't be able to die even if you want to. Gu Ping, who was lying on the ground, screamed, "Where is Mr. Chu?" The water droplet's laughter was like the hissing of a venomous snake. Ignorant human, how dare you try to control me? Don't you know who I am? Do you want to see what happens to Chu Ming Liang? Fine, I'll let you see as much as you want. At this moment, in Gu Ping's eyes, the demonic dragon alien had disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by the usually elegant and calm Chu Ming Liang. Chu Ming Liang's expression was gentle, and he even took the initiative to reach out his hand. Gu Ping, look, I'm fine. Come to me. Let's go to the new world together. Gu Ping was stunned again. Mr. Chu, are you really fine? Ding Meng, who was in the distance, roared. This is an illusion created by infecting telekinesis. At the same time, Ding Meng's telekinesis rained down on Gu Ping. Gu Ping's expression froze, and he quickly regained his consciousness. There was no Mr. Chu in front of him. It was the five-headed monster. It's you again, the demonic dragon alien said with hatred. It looked like it was going to sweep its crocodile-like tail at Ding Meng, but at this time, the array shone brightly. The countdown had entered the final stage, and the sound became particularly urgent. The demonic dragon alien laughed loudly. Wahahaha, I've been trapped for centuries. Today, I'm finally going to be free. Human origin ability users are really delicious. When I recover my peak strength, this constellation will be mine. Ha ha. Everyone was shocked again. This damn thing had been trapped for hundreds of years. From its tone, it seemed that its strength had not fully recovered. However, this demonic beast's aura was so strong that it could stand up straight. Ding Meng had an idea. No wonder you want to go to the holy sanctum. The demonic dragon alien said, in Chu Ming Liang's memories, you're the one who fused with the K virus. The K virus must have clues to the map of the holy sanctum. I'll devour you first, then go to the holy sanctum. Ding Meng suddenly felt a chill. He said coldly, unfortunately, you won't be able to go. The demonic dragon alien laughed. Do you think I don't know what you're planning? Right now, the patrol fleet in Linda Space is all aiming their cannons at Planet Thorn. As soon as I teleport to the surface, I'll be blown to smithereens. Is that right? Ding Meng was stunned again. That was indeed what he was thinking. The demonic dragon alien laughed. Naive. You've underestimated Xinguang technology. At this time, the array had rotated to its limit. All the ghost eyes spewed out white light, and the demonic dragon alien, Ding Meng, and the other five were sucked into it. Chapter 368. In the silent night sky, in the barren desert, there was a rumbling sound as a large ball of white light emerged from the ground and soared into the sky. Sir, the signal has been captured. Live feed. The scout turned his head and said, on the holographic screen of the Golden Eagle mothership, Du Peixing finally saw the expedition starship. The expedition's appearance had not changed, but its entire body was shrouded in a strong light. Those who did not know would think that the starship was about to explode. However, at this time, the communication channel had been established. The holographic screen generated two new holographic screens. One look, and one would know that it was the quantum communication from Du Mo and Irene's diurnal wristwatches. To Du Peixing, Du Mo and Irene were completely in the world of light. They could not distinguish the specific environment at all. Dumo's voice was very serious. He seemed to know what his brother wanted to ask and took the initiative to say, the light you see now is the expedition. It has been transformed into a starship of another civilization by the alien creatures using divine light technology. In a few minutes, it will fly out of the atmosphere. The amount of information was so huge that the human soldiers in the command hall were stunned. Du Peixing was still calm. Where are Uncle Hui and Ding Meng? Just as he finished his question, a bright light flashed in the command center of the expedition again. But Fu Jianzhen noticed that among the flashing white light, there was a red light this time. Oh no, this is the self-detection system of the Divine Light Starship. There must be an unknown danger on board. Whoosh! The holographic screen beside the holographic screen suddenly disappeared. The air rippled like water, as if a small space-time rift had been torn open in the air. They could clearly see that Ding Meng and the others had been transported to a spacious hall. Fu Jinzhen shouted, "It's the rescue port." When the demonic dragon appeared, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. It was easy to imagine the fear in their hearts. Fu Zhonghui's wristwatch was also connected to the mothership. His voice was even more anxious. Everyone run. This thing can't be killed. Even mid-level warlords are no match for it. If it reaches the bridge, everyone will be swallowed. Du Peixing decisively ordered, "Get ready for music shadow transmission." The energy source of the patrol fleet was not as good as that of a single spaceship. A huge hexagonal beam of light immediately appeared in the lobby of HMS Expedition. This level of curved shadow transmission could transport 30 units at a time. Duemo frowned and said, "I'll stay. You guys go first." Du Peixing was stunned. "Xiaomao, what are you doing?" Duemo replied, "Uncle Hui isn't back yet." Meng Yin also said, "Mr. Ting is still there." Fu Zhonghui's voice became even more anxious. "Hurry up and leave. Leave as many people as you can. We'll think of something later." Fu Jinjun sighed and said, "Old bastard and I will stay behind. You all know nothing about the Divine Light Starship system. Old bastard and I know a little about it. Let's see if we can help Brother Ding." Shuiyu Mountain said hatefully, "Yes, now that it has become like this, I want to see it die with my own eyes." Du Mo and Aaron supported Zhong Ting and the others and quickly entered the teleportation array. However, Meng Yin and Lan Bing did not move. Fu Jinjun was shocked. "What's wrong with the two of you?" Lan Bing was expressionless, but Meng Yin said loudly, "I'll go support Mr. Ting." Fu Zhonghui's voice immediately sounded in the image. "Don't come. It's useless no matter how many people come. You can't imagine how powerful this thing is. Hurry up and leave. Don't burden Ding Ming." Du Peixing said, "Don't worry, Uncle Hui. Retreat to the command center. Once you enter the teleportation array, we'll immediately fire at SS Expedition." In fact, Ding Ming had the same idea. No matter how strong the demon was, the starship's railgun could turn it into ashes with a single shot. However, at this moment, everyone neglected one thing. Ding Ming and the others were not the only ones who were teleported to the rescue port. The 16 ghost eyes demon pupils were also teleported over. Fu Jinjun's tone was heavy. "Oh no, we forgot that the warehouse has always existed. This is the most powerful energy. It can't be buried deep underground." Shuiyu Mountain said, "You mean the warehouse was also teleported to SS Expedition?" Fu Jinjun said, "Yes, that's right." Shuiyu Mountain's heart sank. He turned around and operated the main control panel. "The system has lost control. Now, we can only carry out simple internal commands. Also, the route has changed. SS Expedition is no longer flying towards the Sacred Glory system. Instead, it is flying towards the uninhabited outer space of the Linda system. Its speed is gradually increasing. This change would not escape the observation of the patrol fleet." The scout's voice sounded again. "Sir, SS Expedition has turned towards the GKLL Nebula. That's the border between the Norse Empire and the Federation. According to the current increasing speed, the mothership's precise location transmission will fail in 3 minutes. Once SS Expedition breaks through the third cosmic speed, we won't be able to perform the transmission." Du Peixing looked calm, but his brain was working at high speed. After a while, he slowly said, "Pass down my order. Dragon-slaying warrior planet Destroyer 03 will leave the formation. Target, SS Expedition. Mission, rescue all the humans on board and eliminate the alien creatures." As soon as the order was issued, an enormous brown starship that looked like a luxurious cruise ship slowly turned around in space. Multiple thrusters on its tail and flanks spurted out crystal flames as it followed the direction where HMS Expedition was flying to. At this time, in the rescue port's hall, Ding Ming and the others were fighting the demonic dragon again. The final form of the water droplet was really invincible. Even Ding Ming's catopter deflection couldn't cut through the demonic dragon's scales, not to mention the others. It only left a faint mark. Xiao Ai was shocked. Is this an ancient troll? Even Krypton metal can't pierce through it. The demonic dragon's attack method was simple and crude. Its 5 heads shot out like venomous snakes and bit everywhere. Its movements were already fast enough, and when its teeth bit down on the wall of light, it could bite off a large amount of white divine light energy. The demonic dragon raised its head again and swallowed the energy. Little Rascal said nervously, "Its presence is gradually increasing. This means that its energy is still increasing. We can no longer calculate its true strength. Even if a battle saint came, he might not be able to defeat it." Dingmeng was also doing his best. He kept jumping up and down on the dragon's huge body. The longsword in his hand did not stop for a moment. At least 40 slashes landed on the dragon's rightmost neck. The grayscale only left a finger-sized crack. However, when the dragon was not attacking with its head, it would sweep its long tail horizontally. When it swept the light wall, the whole port shook. Just like that, the two sides went back and forth for 6 or 7 rounds. Finally, someone couldn't hold on any longer. When the demonic dragon's tail swept over again, Kuan Ping was already completely exhausted. He simply couldn't jump high enough and was unfortunately swept away. His entire body was swept into the air. A terrifying scene appeared. The demonic dragon's 5 ugly heads opened their mouths and bit Kuan Ping. Then, they tore at the same time. This pitiful young genius didn't even have time to scream before he was torn into pieces and swallowed by the demonic dragon. The remaining people stared at the scene in shock. The dragon's body was growing bigger. It was clearly evolving after obtaining the power of a battle master. A moment later, the dragon's gray scales darkened and showed signs of turning black. "Run!" Fu Zhonghui finally felt fear. "Go to the command center. There's a teleportation formation there." Xingming and Zheng Mei had long since given up on fighting. Only when you couldn't hurt your enemy at all would you feel powerless. The group quickly ran toward the narrowest passage. Everyone's thoughts were clear. The dragon was still large, so it might not be able to squeeze through. However, there was one person who didn't run. Fu Zhonghui hissed, "Guping, what are you doing? Are you crazy?" Guping's entire body was shockingly hot. He glared at the dragon and said, "You guys leave. I will personally take revenge for Mr. Chu. Even though you betrayed me, I will never betray you." After saying this, he actually stood up and charged at the dragon, his entire body turning red. Fu Zhonghui grabbed Dingmeng and rushed into the passage. "Let's go. Stop watching." Dingmeng and the others couldn't see this scene. When Gu Ping's human-shaped eye of light slammed into the dragon's body, it directly melted into the dragon's body and exploded. The entire harbor was swallowed up by the origin energy explosion. The 4 of them madly ran through the passage, covering at least 4 or 5 kilometers. The tremors from the explosion caused the entire ship to vibrate, and everyone's ears began to ring. After a long time, the air calmed down. The shockingly hot origin energy aura disappeared, but the remaining demonic beast aura didn't disappear. Instead, it became even stronger. Xingming's face was pale, and Zheng Mei's face was pale. Dingmeng was still relatively calm, but Fu Zhonghui raised his head and sighed. "Guping, I didn't think you were much, but I didn't expect you to be such a man." In the command center, Fuma Zhen and Shuiyu Mountain were anxiously working on the control panel. Not long after, a portion of the system's control was restored, and the signal was finally transmitted. The screen was regenerated, and a remote projection was connected. The image of the young commander of the planet destroyer appeared in the command center. "How is the situation?" Meng Yin replied. "They'll be here soon. We can activate the teleportation formation." A beam of light appeared in just a few seconds. When Dingmeng and the others staggered in, the commander finally smiled. "Hurry up and come in. The fleet will attack in 1 minute." Shuiyu Mountain suddenly said, "Little thing, you guys can go. I'll stay here." Fuma Zhen was stunned. "What are you planning to do?" Shuiyu Mountain sighed. "You should know why." Fuma Zhen fell silent. He quickly understood. Shuiyu Mountain wasn't willing to leave because once they were teleported, they would be sent to the Federation's starship. That would be the same as falling into the hands of the Federation's military. Even if he was a spirit, how could the Federation's military let go of a world-devouring monster so easily? Shuiyu Mountain continued. Besides, I've already said it before. I must see that damned thing die with my own eyes. With it accompanying me to the grave, I have no regrets. Fulmajin sighed. The two of them had been trapped in this spaceship for more than 20 years. They both knew what kind of temper they had. Once they decided on something, they wouldn't change their minds. Fulmajin also sighed. For the first time, he didn't call him an old bastard. Elder Shui, actually, I can't beat you. Shuiyu Mountain's electronic eyes flickered. He sighed. Before I leave, I have something to say to you. Fulmajin, thank you. If it wasn't for you, I would have been very bored. I wouldn't even have someone to talk to. Go home and take care. I only have one wish. If the Federation and the world-devouring world have to go to war in the future, I hope that you won't participate. Is that okay? Fulmajin nodded. I'll remember that. Don't worry. After he finished speaking, he was the last to enter the beam of light. The teleportation formation quickly shrank to a dot, and everyone safely evacuated. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.